Well, the good news is we're actually going back to our roots and looking at an actual video game, not a video game, tabletop game, damn it. But you know what I'm talking about. We're actually looking at a game this time. This isn't a political wine fest written by an over-the-hill blacklisted writer. The name's Adam.
I'm Imsit.
And I'm Tech Priest, also known as Varenbon Talks Often.
And tonight, we're going to take a look at a very interesting little book that uses Powered by the Apocalypse, our favorite style of system. Allow me to introduce to you Flying Circus. It's missing a little extra. I feel like you could have gotten away with a Monty Python reference here.
I feel like they could have gotten away with an exclamation point in the title.
They
already
did.
have two on the cover.
Yeah, you could have added one more exclamation.
Add the third. Add the third. Just go for it.
Rule of threes.
Yeah. It also looks good.
So this is
Flying
actually
Circus.
a pretty darn good cover. I like the direction they're going with. Powered by the Apocalypse, it still isn't a game. It's closer to a game than what we covered last week.
Arguably, this is a very heavily modified version of Powered by the Apocalypse, just from the little glances I've given it.
So I very much like they're going with the old TSR style adventure splat cover. Also, this is easily the best art in the book. I have actually done a very quick skim through myself. The art kind of nosedives from here.
Yeah.
I guess they shot
I had
to their
$5 to give to my friends to make art. Please draw this for me.
Well, no, I was going to make a joke about them not having a timing belt on the propeller and the machine gun shot it off, but you know.
I mean, you could, but like that's the thing. This is if you're expecting this to be like this is somebody who's barely ever drawn planes and is used to drawing people. This ain't terrible.
I'd say
They
it's
use
the opposite.
CG models to try to
What's
trace
got a
it.
dragon?
No, I'd argue
No,
it's
they
the
don't
opposite.
dragon.
I've seen their people art. It's not much better.
Yeah. Not
It's
good.
not, but it looks like what they did is they took the actual models off of like other stuff and then they traced around it, which fair enough if you're doing technical work and you're not a very confident artist. That's totally fine.
I will say there is a bit of a problem I have with the choice. I don't like how the red bar is covered over by the CGI plane down there. I don't like the fourth wall
That
breaks.
is a mistake. That is a mistake.
I do have to ask, in the interior cover, why is there a Hebrew letter on the plane?
That is because
I don't know.
No,
There's an Aleph.
that
is
is
an Aleph.
because we're going to get into the setting, and that's going to be part of it. Also, nice use of a triplane configuration, because this is the era of experimentation on that sort. I will be very sad if we do not see a sesquiplan, which is where you have more than 3 wings.
Some of the early aircraft that were designed, let me put it like this. Everyone was trying to figure out what actually worked. Like, we know that a biplane works, and more wings equals more lift, right?
Also, thinner
Right.
wing structure, which means less weight.
Right. There's some answers to that if you know anything about actual design are like, oh god, no, please stop, no.
Caproni, what have you done?
But early on, you had some very, very interesting ideas.
The record holder, by the way, is a Canadian telephone man. I think it was Alexander Graham Bell. Actually designed his own plane. It had 2,000 wings because it was based on a type of kite.
Yeah, like that's just not going to work.
It actually flew, but I think it crashed on the second flight.
I wouldn't be shocked. Like that seems like a recipe for how the fuck do you get any control over that airflow?
So yes, this was actually kickstarted, and they, I believe, have expansions too because of how relatively successful it was, including tanks. I don't have that.
The idea of let's make a fighter like an Ace Combat style of game set in like the early era of flying where it's all weird and wonky is totally legitimate.
It's a good idea, and they actually kind of are going with a Sky Pirate scenario where you have to fly to get everywhere. Well, we'll cover that, but lore-wise, basically, just we'll get into it, but there are reasons why this is a Sky Pirate setting.
I mean, that's the thing. If you could take this game and strip out all the setting stuff, and it would probably function just fine.
I will also state that I spent more time looking at the Planes catalog than I did the core book.
I don't blame you. The planes are actually all like, oh, there's so much like interesting stuff in early aviation, like just in general. You get some real wonky bullshit
I think my
that people
favorite one
try to.
is the German attempt to recreate bird wings with the Taube.
Yes, there's also the good old-fashioned push prop, which was popular for a lot of designs early on.
Don't forget Sikorsky's attempt to make the very first air cruise liner.
Right, there are flying boats even very early, which I will just say is the most absolutely terrifying aircraft you could fly at that
By the
time.
way, the flying boat was specifically because that was a way for Curtis to get away from the patent trolling that the Wright brothers were doing.
Right,
He called them
and
flying boats specifically to avoid being copyright claimed for calling it an airplane.
oh yeah, the Wright brothers were notorious in early aviation for patenting basically everything they could get away with, and then pursuing everybody else that's trying to iterate on their design. Because frankly, the Wright aircraft company was absolutely garbage. It was not very good. It did not develop much more beyond the Kitty Hawk, and it folded relatively quickly.
It was to the point where there was a reason the US kept importing British designs.
I mean, there's a reason also why it's the Curtis Wright company, and Curtis is definitely the heavy lifter in those.
Which is funny because the Wrights tried as hard as they could to ruin his career completely.
Yep.
By the way, this is the passion project of Erica Chappell. This is very much their work, courtesy of Newsstand Press and powered by the Apocalypse, which is to its detriment.
Yes. I think that this could be one of those examples of I wanted to build a game, the system is freely available, I'm going to modify that system, and then you start to run into some of the issues of the system.
At least Erica did not use Fate, the system.
Yeah, no, that you need this to be kind of crunchy. It's early aircraft.
So the pilot's creed is all in German because
It's all in
there's
German because it's based on, if I remember right, this is part of the general creed of like a lot of the flyers of the era.
It was
Of
very
like, here's how you
gentleman.
perform.
It was very gentleman's warfare.
Yes, because a good way to put it is that a lot of people view this as like the return of Knights of the Air, because it's kind of down to skill and courage and the ability to risk just completely dying every time you fly, because these things are ramshackle death traps at
well,
the
there's
best of
also
times.
the matter that since numbers were not ridiculous to the level that they were later on, um, a single pilot actually can make a difference.
Yeah, there. Remember, the largest air battles are like 24 aircraft.
Like, yes, they did make, what was it, up to 10,000 planes? I believe Italy was able to do that. Or was it 20,000? But
How many were actually flying at any given time? A
and
lot less than that.
it's usually like a couple dozen per, not front line, but per unit, like per division,
Yeah,
since it's
you
usually
have a
for
lot of
observation.
spare. You also have a lot of spare aircraft. Not a lot of them are actually fighter aircraft. Most of them are observation aircraft.
And replacement
There's
parts.
there's some dedicated bombers, and then there's just some aircraft that are hanging around for replacement, because early aviation is the sort of thing of, it's not if you crash, it's when you crash.
Oh, this was play tested on sufficient velocity? I wonder
Oh.
what
Oh.
design malfeasances occurred because of this.
Well, this explains something. If we go to the first big image we see of the fighter planes, I'd like you to note the modified anti-fascist symbol, with the two arrows pointing down. And I say it's anti-fascist because we see below, in writing, Die Maschinen toten Faschisten and Antifaschisten Aktion. I think that gives away a bit of the politics they're going for.
I'm more concerned with the choice of adding a random cat girl for no reason.
I have no idea with that one either. I don't know.
So, on the one hand, the multiple colors are based on, well, how the Central
Actual
Powers did it.
aircraft. you need to understand the early days of aircraft was basically whatever you could fucking get away with was
Oh
sort of
God,
what
yeah.
they'd put on your plane. There were
It
as
really wasn't
notorious
until
the
World War
flying
II, by the
circus.
way. It really wasn't until
Yeah,
World War II where they started to, because they took photos of these pilots. They were like, you can't have the naked lady masturbating as your nose cone art, and you're like, the fuck, I can't.
unless you were a bomber pilot, you got away with that because you were very likely to die. The but
I,
no,
I
like
believe one
the
of the potential ones for the atomic bombings, because they were going to be reported if they came back, I think they had to change nose cone arts just so they
I
could have
wouldn't
their
be
plane taken a photo of.
yeah, I would not be shocked.
Which one? The Enola
There's
Gay?
I know that there's a couple of times where they had to actually edit their nose art just so that they
because
get their portraits taken.
yeah, they're but more like the color schemes. The color schemes of aircraft were not really standardized until really the interwar, arguably. There's a reason why Char flies a red Zaku. It is a deliberate homage to this era of
Oh, he wasn't the only one actually. All aces in the Principality of Xeon usually would pick their own colors once they were relatively
well,
famous enough.
yes, that was a general homage to the standard practice among certain units of the German Air Force at the time.
By the way, one of the scariest aces that Xeon had, who had a higher kill count than Char, his mech always had the standard colors. Or it
Oh,
was like one shade off from the standard colors of the unit. Because
I
he
think
didn't see a
that's
point. There was another ace who was known as the Crimson Lightning who constantly got pissed off because his paint scheme was too close to Char's, even though his was more of a pinkish red.
so they just kept getting
Like a
mistaken.
it's like a
Well, his
lightish red.
kills were erroneously or in some cases purposefully given to Char.
Oof. But yes, that's like why the Red Baron gets his nickname is literally that they just dude just painted his aircraft red. He's like fuck it.
There are also what are called ace teams, such as the Black Tri-Stars, who collectively, because they're known as a unit, paint their unit as a unique color.
Right. The flying circus in specific, though, I think refers to Jaeger Group 12. I want to say.
It did, because they had some pretty wacky color types.
I
Speaking of
want to say
wacky, I like the
32. That was it. I
I like
think.
the
Was
wired
it
frame model that you see, the blue and
JG?
gray one. Look at that nightmare.
JG1
Oh yeah.
was that. JG12 was a different unit. My bad on that one.
But
Uh,
but to
I,
get
I
onto
also
what
love the possibly AI generated plane, which uses the body of a modernized monoplane from the 1930s, and then just slaps a couple of tilted biplane wings on it. Because these look a little too cylindrical, in my opinion. Planes in this era were more boxy because they were canvas and wood framed.
yes, there were early monoplane and early sort of metal designs, but they weren't what you'd call frontline. This was very experimental at the time.
I mean,
Uh,
to give you an idea, you could become a famous airplane manufacturer by, let's say you're a bored bike shop owner and you fucked around with a tractor engine. You might be able to get into the airplane business in this time period.
Hmm. But onto the game. To describe it is basically this: take a BattleTech mercenaries group and put them in these ramshackled biplanes, and then make it gay,
Yeah, you could
like
just get
like
blackout
really gay.
drunk and have ill-advised sex with each other, which, in fairness, during the
that
time
was
period,
very common. That was extremely common among fighter pilots.
well, not only that, but this is the era where drag shows were legitimately popularized among the men.
It the this
The leader of Hungary during World War II, the regent Miklos Horthy Dinagyevanya, actually has several photos of him in full ball gown style drag back when he was a young
Yep.
officer in the Austro-Hungarian Navy.
Yep.
You can you
There
can find
is
photos of him in that dress
yeah,
and the
there is
makeup.
a
He put
lot.
effort into it. Like holy
Yeah, they
shit.
put a lot of effort into these. They did a lot, and I do mean a lot. Like you good lord. The fighter squadrons were especially notorious for being very
Flamboyant.
yes is a good way to put it. Flamboyant, loose. a lot of it's that these were the people that had some of the highest mortality rate of anyone. On top of, generally speaking, a lot of them came from aristocratic backgrounds.
One of my favorites is there is an Italian fighter, I believe he was a fighter pilot, who had a habit of refusing to stay in his barracks. What he did instead is he would find the nearest comfortable tree and sleep underneath it in the nude. He was a
Remember,
nudist who constantly walked around, except during missions or if he was forced to be briefed in other places, to walk around completely naked, covered in filth because he also didn't bathe.
Oh no.
And he got away with it because he was also extremely wealthy, a philanthropist, and I believe a nobleman.
yes, just as a reminder,
He also was close friends with the Gabriel Dionysio, Mr. Futurismo, the guy who did the March on Trieste.
again, I was about to say, just as a reminder that Catch 22's description of like life on an aircraft base in World War II is not that exaggerated. I'm talking about the book. It's not that exaggerated of how crazy things were. These were people that were, quite frankly, a little bit crazy just to be willing to go up and fly these aircraft. Because more pilots died on landing than in actual combat.
A reminder that one of the first problems that they had to solve was synchronized machine guns, mainly because early dogfights, they usually used sidearms like pistols, because the machine guns they experimentally put on their planes actually shot their propellers off.
The early designs for fighters are very interesting. So first off, they kind of noticed that people were taking handgun pot shots at one another and all that. But the Germans were the first one to really come up with a dedicated fighter design, and they figured out the way around that propeller issue by just putting the propeller behind the pilot, and then the machine guns facing forward. This is the earliest fighter design, and it had about a 3-month reign of terror because everybody else was scrambling to come up with their own design to counter this. And then, of course, the interrupter gear somebody figures that one out, and it's off to the races in terms of designs.
As for
Because both,
bombing, my favorite example of this is that actually bombing first came about during the invasion of Libya by the Italians. The Italians actually were, in a lot of ways, pioneers in flight during this time period. And it was mainly because some people had the brilliant idea of chucking live grenades down from their planes at low altitudes. This became routine during the early phases of the war until someone figured out, wait, I could put like a 50-kilogram bomb on this thing, just, lever to drop it, and boom, there you go, air support. But
yeah,
as for the setting, it is a
So
fantasy world on the continent of Himmelgard, a sprawling landmass of soaring mountains and tangled forests. It draws on early 20th century rural Germany, European fairy tales, and the cozy apocalypse aesthetic of early Ghibli to create a world of Porco Rosso.
yeah.
yeah.
It's Porco Rosso. It's like our traveling home, but less shit.
So as they say here, Himmelgard was ruled by a number of imperial states, and then there's a gulf between the rich and the poor, and armed conflict was used as a release valve. And basically they went for aircraft as their way of fighting
Basically,
and
what
using other war
happened
machines.
is this is one of the consequences of a person who comes up with an idea like this. They hyperemphasize on one aspect of warfare without thinking about the other aspects. What happened for Flying Circus, though, is they did remember, oh yeah, tanks are a thing too.
Which, fair enough. That's the other autism.
And
Besides plain
Essentially,
autism.
if
so
you're running a war system, you have to. One of the things you got to keep in mind is there's multiple aspects to waging war. But because of this great war, the red zone in France,
yeah,
filled
the
of
place where
unexploded ordnance. Okay, add dark rituals that have monsters lurking in there, uh, magical gases and viruses or whatever. Basically, most of the continent has recovered from a planet-wide bombardment, essentially, from the war. Other than the
And
major cities, the wilderness is very, very much red zone. So that's why they use the planes to get around everywhere.
And you're basically mercenaries for hire to fight against whatever.
Sky pirate setting.
Yeah.
The Sky Pirates.
Porco
Ace
Rosso.
combat. Where you can have a mercenary unit with F-15s. Don't ask questions.
Oh, maybe they stole them from some like Middle Eastern power during a coup. Who knows?
Again, just don't ask questions.
So essentially, it's a powered by the apocalypse system. They mention that you need tokens of some sort, component cards. So this uses cards.
There's different planes you can choose.
By the way,
We have-
that plane is carrying some sexual identity flag that I don't recognize.
I
If
don't
I-
care.
It's one of the
Yeah.
million ones that are
We
invented and
just
no one
do
cares.
not care here. We do not care
No.
about whatever sexuality flag you fly, because we just do not care.
Now get shot down by sky pirates.
There are sky pirates here. I'm pretty sure that they also do not care.
Though we do have on page 13 a warning of on queerness, sex, and intimacy.
Whether like it might happen.
Oh hey, guys, very grateful that we came up with Hunters Incorporated last stream. I'm glad people are using the concept. I think the idea of Ghostbusters, but you're dealing with Dracula or werewolves as varmints is a fun one. You have to wrangle Ernie, the sea monster.
Yeah, they go through that intimacy, excess drinking and drug use. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
so
yep.
I need to stress that this was not uncommon among pilots of the era. You would have people going into combat incredibly drunk.
the choice of art though does make my bones hurt.
Yeah, this is the deep hurting for Adam. This art is not very good.
Oh no, this is High Guardian Spice, but if it was a Sky Pirate setting and actually had thought put into it.
They do make a point though.
Also, they mention there's an entire section on culture, race, and identity, which I think does have to get mentioned because
Fish people.
because there's sky gypsies.
There are sky gypsies. Where are the
That
sky
too.
Jews? Where are the sky reindeer herder people?
Well, no, we're in space.
Well, basically,
That's
what
true.
happened was
Right, you're the Jews in space, saving the Hebrew race.
Well, essentially, what happens is that it doesn't matter. There's an entire bunch of different cultures that are fantastical. I don't think any of them actually get brought up, or if they do, it's later on.
Yeah,
it's fluff. It's not like anything.
They also do.
Well, if it's
bring
powered
up,
by the apocalypse, you kind of live and die by fluff.
Yeah.
So that's why I did mention that you probably should mention.
I know.
They
but
do bring up the fact that the pilots are gonna end up being young.
Well, yeah,
Correct.
a lot of them
As
were
they
very
were?
young. Pilots over 30 were considered an oddity.
Well, yeah, because because much like your average video game professional, the people who go on tournaments, your reflexes melt to shit after you hit 25.
They tend to decline. The main thing, though, with that is more like there weren't a lot of people that survived long enough to get old in this profession.
And also, this is World War One, where young men
were
were encouraged to go off to war.
I mean,
there were a lot
tactics.
of very young people
Also,
that
tactics.
went up and died.
What that?
Well, no, there were plenty of tactics. It's just that all the tactics that they had planned for were completely off the fucking table.
Like my favorite one. Here, let's go in our brightly colored uniforms and march up right into the German machine guns. And that's how.
Well, we need to
believe-
charge them.
I believe that's how France lost. I think 22,000 people in a single day.
Correct.
Yeah,
And that
the
is
early
because
battles
of
of the frontiers. It was literally the doctrine of the time, which is the idea is that if you can keep your morale going long enough, that you'll overwhelm the enemy and break them.
Well, there's also
And-
the concept that here's the big thing that the French were operating on. For the entire century prior, their main successes were in daring and very kind of insane, bold attacks. Elan.
Right. You need to carry the attack. You need to be always aggressive, always on the move, always attacking. Never defending, never retreating if you could avoid it. That did not work out for them very well because it basically meant in the early days that they were counterattacking into forces that were prepared and ready for them.
There's
and
one
it went
other factor.
horribly.
There's one other factor that people neglect, which is that they did not comprehend, not until at least 1915, the structure of how wars would be fought with the technology on hand. There were hints of
The
this in the American Civil War, but the Europeans did
the
not observe
main
it.
No,
Not
there were hints of
seriously.
this way before, and they all observed it, and there were plans for it. The main thing, though, is the French army believed that the main lesson
It
from
wasn't
both
just
the
the French army,
Russo-Japanese,
Tech.
I know, but let me finish, that the Russo-Japanese War, which showed very, very clearly that heavy artillery was going to carry the day when pure forces engage, the French army basically went, that's bullshit. Heavy artillery is too slow. We can't drag this thing around with us on a quick offensive that we need to surround and defeat the enemy in detail. So, fuck it. We don't need heavy artillery. We don't have heavy artillery. And that's why the French 75 millimeter gun was so common and so widely produced, because it was basically their only gun. And then they ran into the German 105s, and it got real bad,
Well, what
real
happened with
fast.
the French, as far as I can tell, is they suffered, in a lot of ways, what the British suffered during the Industrial Revolutions. They were the first to do a lot of these things, and it fucked them. Because what happened was other people looked at what they did and said, "Oh, that's how you do it. How do we make it better?" The Germans did that with the Mauser 88. They did it with the 105.
Basically, the 105 is a little bit further.
But still,
Uh,
like keep in mind
the
the Lebel rifle was novel at the time, very novel, but it's also
Yes,
due
but it's
to
early
its time,
adoption problems. The tube magazine,
its
relatively
weight,
limited ammunition. It was very heavy. The due to the way the ammunition was
because it
distributed,
was
the way that
based
the
on
rifle
earlier
would
black powder.
change. There's the No, it wasn't designed with black powder. It
It
was designed
wasn't
with smokeless powder.
designed, but it was based off of earlier rifle patterns.
It was Yes, it was based off the black powder designs because that was the best basis for it. They just also needed a different cartridge.
They also didn't
The
have the
Lebel
material
was
sciences either.
Yeah, the Lebel was fine.
Oh no,
The
it was a
main problem
perfectly
was
excellent rifle. It's just it was outpaced by the 1900s.
It's that it got out. It's that the best replacement the French had was the PbtA, which was inadequate to say the best.
Incorrect. It's because the French kept on walking back on making a new gun. The PbtA was
Yeah,
always supposed to be a stopgap. It was never supposed to
right,
be the replacement.
But
right. But it effectively turned
yeah,
into it because it was cheaper to manufacture, easier to manufacture, use the new cartridge.
The
Problem
actual
was
reason is
3 round magazine.
well, the other problem is the rifle that they eventually, because remember, the way the French system works is you argue this through the councils. They finally agreed on a gun in 1914. They made about 20,000 of them before the war began.
And at that point, it's like
Nowhere near enough.
nowhere near enough to issue. They switched overproduction to what they already have in service
Which at this
and
point was
already
the PbtA and
manufacturing
Lebel.
because they need more. Yep.
but moving on to this. So
Bondage gear. I
we
mean, safety
yeah,
tools.
we've talked about Powered by the Apocalypse games. The one thing that I think they've done differently in this case is a 2d10 system instead of a d6 system.
It's instead of a 2d6 system, a 2d10 system, which fair enough.
So in
Okay.
this case, 11 plus is a hit, 10 or less is a miss, 11 through 15 is a partial hit, and 16 plus is a full hit. The
And
moves
when
will
you
tell you,
consider you're adding your modifiers and all
yeah.
that, yeah.
And I do like this. The moves will tell you what happens on a full or partial hit. When you miss, the GM throws in a twist.
Okay, that's
I,
better.
I do like this
Yeah.
better because it's not relying on the GM to make up what happens every time. Your
Yes.
set moves based on, I believe, your playbook tells you what will happen.
Right, and that's the other bit here is that if you when you make you roll as a consequence of the narrative pushing a move, so basically you might push the move go if you start failing, so that you can have a consequence spiral as you're going through here. If you start to fail a diving attack, you are going to have to try to recover that, so on and so forth.
One of the interesting aspects of this variation is the GM almost never touches the dice.
Right, it's actually kind of an interesting way of doing it.
I do like this little side though. On the rare occasion, you'll be asked to roll a d5. Because 5-sided dice are awful, roll a d10, divide in half, rounding up.
Fair enough.
Fair enough, but D5s have always been one of my things I hate.
I hate them too, but at the very least, they're not like saying you need a custom die for this.
E13.
Oh, I looked at Dungeon Crawl Classic, and the second I saw D26, I'm like, okay, we're out, we're done.
Yeah, if
what?
you have to invent your... Yeah, there's a bunch of isohedral dice that are very weird. One of the other really rare weird ones is the D36. That's a real thing.
That's a real one.
It's most used in a couple of weird games and one Arturian Legends one that actually got sort of popular, but for that die making it a bitch to run.
In any
Let's see,
case,
what else? They have mechanics for taking X plus forward, meaning on the next roll,
Extra
you add a
dice.
bonus or penalty. You get a choice when you use it. It's always the next roll.
Advantage
Oh,
and
I think I know what
disadvantage.
happened. Because this was tested on sufficient velocity. Okay, I know what's going on. This is based on quest rolling. What happened was this probably evolved from a
Oh,
quest, and the mechanics were then used to devise the system, powered by the apocalypse being the closest to that system. That's why the D10s were used too, because uh, decile measurements are a little more reliable in that regard. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
feels
This
less random. Yeah, it works.
no, it's because
It's
traditionally quests usually use D percentile, but this one must
no,
have used
they use
decile.
D20. It depends on where it was from originally.
D20s are
Anyway,
also common, but I've seen D10s get
yeah,
used. I've seen a lot of weird
I've
quests.
seen dice pool systems, which is kind of funny.
The most cursed
The
quest I've ever seen used the dreaded what is it, D66, where you used 2d6 to figure things out.
Oh wow.
It was one of the weirder things I've seen.
All right, stress and experience, which fair enough.
yep.
You're
Advantage
gonna
and
get real
disadvantage.
fucking stressed.
Hmm.
Uh, High
Injury and
Guardian
death.
Spice, but in a beer hall.
I admit I like the dude with his feet up with the glasses on. He's trying so hard to be Char.
He's trying so hard to be cool, when all I have to say is I came here to laugh at you.
I came here to laugh at you. I just
Uh,
want to say that.
The
injury.
Injury and
shark
death.
person
That.
on the side there is also a bit questionable.
Yeah, that's one of the things they're going with.
Feels like a
Feels like
backer got
a
their OC
shoveled
in.
in. Yeah. Feels like a
Uh,
shoveled in section here. Like, again, as I said, this game could work really well if you take out a lot of the background information.
we have with the injury and death. You can die only if you choose to. It might be narratively appropriate.
Oh, I hate that.
To
However,
be
they make a point.
fair,
If it says if you do miraculously survive, you might wish you
you
hadn't,
might regret it.
because
And to be
I think
fair,
that would
there
be
are
then
some
up. Yeah.
absolutely insane survival stories of pirate pilots, both from this war and the Second World War, including walking away from various crashes that really should have killed them.
Do you want to know what one of the most interestingly strange survivals I've ever seen was?
Which
What?
one?
I believe what happened was a ball gunner, one of those guys, in their bomber, his turret
Fell
got
out. Oh,
blown off
right.
from flak at
I think I've heard about
30,000
this. And he
feet.
ended up landing in a snowdrift at just the right speed that it saved his life.
Oh no, he landed actually in a glass subway roof. And
Oh,
then
that one.
that broke his fall.
That one. Yeah. There's a lot of these, like, some people just survive the
And the
weirdest
fucked up thing
shit.
is that ball gunner was the only one of his crew to survive because the plane got shot down during the mission.
Right. There's some wild stories of people, and there's some like actual firsthand accounts, including one of a guy that crash landed his aircraft, got out of the aircraft while slightly on fire, got batted the fire out, walked over, got into a fresh plane, and got right back in the air. Absolute insane person, but that did genuinely happen.
Oh, Nicholas pointing out that there were several quests
Not surprised.
varying the test. So yeah, it fits.
That's
I mean, if you can just send
There's
it off to sufficient velocity for playtesting, might as well.
yeah.
yeah.
Character creation,
Let's see.
background stuff. You
There's a
have to.
trust.
I don't
The trust
like
mechanic.
the cockpit in here because I mean I get that it's slapdash, but even World War I cockpits usually had a bit more effort put into them than this.
Oh, that cockpit right there, like with the no, that one's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah, to
Uh,
maybe to like a 1911 model.
no, not even 1911. Like this was actually pretty accurate. That's a full-on dash there. If you take a look,
Oh,
they usually had a wooden plank there, not metal, and then you'd put the dials
okay.
and instruments inside of that wooden plank because it was cheaper and easier to manufacture that way.
Fair enough. I might be confusing it with 20s models then.
You are definitely confusing it with 20s, where they sort of did put more solid, like
Yeah, because
thinner. They basically did the math and they realized thinner metal saved you a little bit of extra weight while adding structural stability.
I mean, the Red Baron survived getting shot down. He didn't survive the
Oh yeah,
infantry that found him, though.
no, he actually died in the air. He got hit by an anti-aircraft cannon being chased by a Canadian and then
in
went down.
fairness, the Red Baron was never the same after the crash that Imsit's talking about, since he suffered a bad concussion, which altered his personality for the worse.
Oh, also,
Yeah,
in fairness, better he die from an anti-air gun than by a Canadian. Well, especially a World War One Canadian.
oh yeah, no, war crimes o'clock, those guys. Anyway, the
So,
general
yeah.
background stuff is pretty simple. They talk a
I
little bit about
don't
money,
like
about
I don't like the Thaler design.
the Thaler design is terrible. It is genuinely terrible. The only way I could see that being made out of is someone that made it as like a this was a belt buckle at one point.
I think what
But
happened was they wanted a cool fantasy currency, and they did not think, what would this fantasy currency, like how much of a bitch would this be to make?
right. And
The red
in any
gem in
case,
particular pisses me off.
It's just a glass bead, apparently.
that's
Oh,
stupid.
I hate that.
But
I
still.
hate this. Anyway,
It's a
they go
gold coin
into
the size of a beer coaster too. Jesus, how much fucking gold's in this?
yeah, it's stupid. Don't go with it. Like if you're running this sort of setting, don't just use fucking normal people money
Deutschmarks.
or whatever the fuck they use.
Okay, so
Right. Anyway,
session
character
zero, we
creation.
we have our
Oh,
high
oh.
guardian Spice and Velma characters. We got modern Velma and Shaggy kissing in the background. You
We got
have
a
Rat
dude
Boy.
with is that
We
a
have
dude with a
Rat Boy
fucking
working
like?
with the cat girl.
Sorry, no. I'm trying to say, is that a fucking what kind of submachine gun is that guy has? Hold the fuck on.
Was that made in Fallout 4?
Wait, that is a revolver
That's a
rifle.
Fallout 4 gun!
Is that a revolver carbine that they fucked up the design of?
Yes, because they
Yes!
added they added the machine gas vent, the machine gun
No, they
gas vent.
added the air cooling
Yeah, it's an air
barrel
cooler.
shroud. Okay, all
So
right.
I don't hate this because this is a post-apocalypse setting.
I can see someone salvaging that shit
I
together.
could see a damaged army pistol, or what? Here's what would maybe make sense:
Actually, here's another one.
an army revolver pistol being used with a rifle grip, with at least some form of, yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, I could see it being clutched together.
It's
You
way
got a
too heavy
machine
in the
gun
front
barrel.
though.
You've got the roughly, which is roughly the right diameter, because of course the Russians had 7.62 uh, pistols. So why the fuck not? Uh, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
fuck it.
But, so, we'll
We,
move
we
on
have
then to
we have
character
Sky
creation.
Romani and Shark Boy, who probably spent a good couple $1,000 getting this character into the slots.
Skyrim Honey and Shark Boy.
I'm calling
Then
him
we
Shark Boy.
have...
I feel like I feel like this
Where's our
was a
lava girl then?
Kickstarter person.
Anyway,
Maybe
starting off
Sky
with
Romani
character.
is Lava Girl because her
So
hair
we
is
I don't
have
red.
know.
we have our backgrounds, which I believe are our playbook.
Farmer, soldier, fisher, skyborn, student, believer, scion, survivor, witch, worker. They don't
Mm,
really go much more into detail here. They do it later
I
on.
think my problem with this is, since this is kind of based on World War One, where's your weird nobleman?
That's the
Scion.
scion.
Ah, fair enough.
And let's see what they start with. They start with assets, baggage, a plane,
History and all that.
and
Attribute
attribute selection.
selection. Very standard power by the apocalypse. You got 4: hard, keen, calm, and daring.
So strength, dexterity, and
Wisdom?
wisdom, and
And then just batshit insanity.
I was going to say strength combined with toughness, perception, and dexterity, willpower slash composure, and luck slash charisma. I really hate the character designs, by the way.
The character designs are the worst, yes.
These feel like something that crawled out of the reject piles for Candela Obscura.
Oh,
it's that
I
very
also love the.
anime-esque real life kind of aesthetic, and it's just not working.
Oh no, it's not anime at all. This is Tumblr's interpretation of anime. That's why I'm calling this High Guardian Spice if it was Sky Pirates.
Yeah.
By the way, I love the FP Liberator in the style of a Waltner prison gun. That's an interesting prison gun.
that is a real shit Mauser there.
Also, the arming sword slash scimitar is not quite curved enough.
Well, I mean, there were a lot of those sort of fucking things handed around in dress uniforms.
All I know is that Shark Girl there made a horrible mistake for not wearing pants.
It gets cold up there.
Oh no, I'm thinking in the event that metal shards slam into it, the
Oh,
pants
well,
might
yeah,
provide
so
protection.
it gets cold up there. Stress and familiar vices. Characters build up stress over time, get rid of their vices.
Most
What's a familiar
characters.
one?
Wait, I know.
Start with drinking already checked off.
Yeah.
Of course they do.
Fair enough. Intimacy.
You have
personal
intimacy moves.
move, which I guess you could argue that I could see this being an interesting mechanic for like how do you actually calm down or how do you interact with other people, and that's the intimacy move. Like, what is your default way of trying to deal with the fucking shit that you've experienced?
This is borrowing from Monster Hearts, from what I understand.
Yeah,
This
fair
aspect.
enough. That's where Monster Hearts shined, as dull of a shine as it was.
It was like shining a ball of shit.
You can do it, but why?
Why?
Masteries, which is your favorite tactics, which
Yep.
okay.
Then you have your company.
I'm just
Your
no no no
company-
no no. Before we do, look at the tie-dye vomit Coca-Cola PepsiCo plane. Look at that fucking.
Oh,
Imagine the
Oh
poor
yeah, no.
bastard that has to paint that.
Those fucking designs were not the worst or the most unusual.
No, it's the effort that the poor fucking mechanic or painter has to do whenever it gets
Oh yeah.
damaged.
Oh yeah.
This
You gotta
is a
patch that
dude
shit.
who has their beer pissed in. Let's be honest.
Right. Then you get rondels. Rondels were at this time absolutely fucking crazy. They went hard. You got to remember the U.S. general rondel use was a goddamn top hat of Uncle Sam. That was one of the general use, at least emblems, not full on rondels, but other rondel designs you had was like the Dutch had the orange triangle. There were a lot of circles with dots in them, bullseyes.
I believe the Finns used the swastika for good luck.
Yeah, they did.
Oh.
There were a few other kind
I
of
believe
just
they
like
still
out
do.
there. If I remember correctly, there was a unit that used a pentagon. I can't remember which country used like a pentagon for their basis. Anyway,
I'm just
there were
envisioning
a
a
lot.
company whose roundel is just a stylized middle finger.
That could be very much a thing. Usually, though, you want it to be as bright and distinctive as possible.
A neon pink middle finger.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got a company roster,
Company roster to explain all your unit, which fair enough.
and also to represent salaries, replacement parts.
Your
Employees.
replacements when you inevitably fall screaming 10,000 feet because the dragon ate your propeller.
So yeah, this is like
Yep.
BattleTech.
Fame and infamy. Yeah, it's basically a BattleTech mercenary unit.
It's
then we
Babby's
have-
first BattleTech.
World map.
World map session 0, create a region where you're going and fucking going nuts. Basically, just grab like a general thing, whatever. Don't bother with like a full on, extremely detailed, but just feel free to make up whatever the fuck you want.
Basically, you're gonna want at least the vague terrain and placements of things. But unless you somehow survive the crash, which, let's be blunt,
You're probably not.
but if you do, that's when you have to come up with the specialized stuff.
All right, then the routine, which is I actually kind of like this as an idea.
Well, no,
Yeah.
the region will also need a name as a general rule. Places and nations are named for real-world aircraft
It's the
companies.
round table, everyone. We're doing the fucking. I don't see any borders from up here. It's time for that Ace Combat Zero spicy flamenco music. Yo, buddy, still alive?
So with the mission, there's primarily two parts. Just well, the mission and then business and pleasure.
Where are you now?
39.
Ah,
The
the routine.
structure.
I love pie charts in my game.
So you'll have pre-flight checks, then action, which is them doing their combat in the air or the ground.
Landing, stress relief, then finances, finding work, and reflection. Fair enough.
I get it. It's just for some reason there's something intrinsic in my soul that if I'm looking
That
at
you
a
hate
pie
pie
chart,
charts.
no, I hate pie charts if they're if they're supposed to be for whimsy. They are a reference guide for the they are a reference guide. They are not part of your game design, except in the backwards half. This is something for the GM to have to think about, not the
Well, I think they were
players.
also trying to do this as like a time thing as well.
No.
So
Oh,
it's supposed to be
I
like a
hate
clock.
that clock thing. Ah,
Well, yeah, because it's 50-50.
I loathe it.
But right, pre-flight, action, landing, stress relief, finances, finding work, and reflection, where you just do your advancement. So pretty simple.
Oh god, a Sky Pirate setting based on Cyberpunk would also be pretty funny.
That would actually be pretty radical. I would be totally down for like, hey, you're all in the atmosphere of fucking Titan or somewhere like that. You're all cyborgs. You're trying to survive in a fucking
Atmospheres on Titan using essentially a modified scramjet that doesn't have an ignition spark to use its atmosphere.
right.
Or alternatively,
Then
some things like like the dinosaur, you're flying the dinosaur space plane.
right. Press your luck, obviously.
So these are the universal moves that you can do.
Yeah, break trust, basically lose connections with people, take stress. However, you get or you can basically show directly explicitly how you feel and remove a stress. Basically put either you have a breakdown involving another NPC or person, or you just keep things quiet.
Ah, I was going to go with, so you could go with the Steven Universe way where you just kind of ugly cry in front of everyone all the fucking
I
time.
mean, that could be that, but usually they're talking about
It's
show,
the,
don't
it's the
tell, slap in the
designs.
face, screaming and throw things, slam the door.
No, it's
Fuck
just the
their-
character designs.
I love this one. Make love their sweetheart in broad daylight atop their favorite plane. Make drama.
The only thing I will say about that last one is that get your mind out of the gutter. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
fighter pilots are known to be
they would do
promiscuous,
shit
but
like that.
but
There was some wild ass shit going on, man.
I don't know. It feels really fucking weird to have in an RPG.
Restore trust, help hinder, discover beauty because it's a Ghibli movie. And then there's intimacy, so you know.
And
It
then
does not
here,
mean sex, but it could represent it.
AKA, this is the part where you gross out your entire table and you get violently thrown out forever alone.
Right.
This is the part where you get thrown out and have to host games on Roll20 in Exile from now on.
All right. This is where we get into the actually interesting
The clown
design
mask
choices.
stays on.
The clown mask stays on.
I'm just envisioning like imagine a wing of sky pirates that are styled all as different types of clown. Like you have the silent runner, which is mime themed, and then you have the juggalo, which is just insane clown posse.
I was just imagining
The
an entire
jester.
group of juggalos, which is even funnier, honestly.
So, pre-flight checks. You have an entire concept for your instrument panel.
Harry Potter from another dimension is about to get shot down.
Oh, that is Harry Potter.
You're an ace pilot, Harry.
You're
Did you come to mock me, Lord Voldemort? No, I came to laugh at you as I shoot you down. Voldemort's
All right.
basically the Dark Lord, the Dark Baron, the Dark King.
The dark pair. Okay. Pre-flight checks. Instrument panel keeps track of everything. This is actually kind of an interesting concept.
An interesting concept that feels like a lot of fiddly works.
It's a
So
lot of crunch. You're going
the
to have
basics
crunch.
of like, here's your crunch, and here's how you navigate through that crunch. Altimeter tracks your altitude. What altitude you were at, and move it around your token on there to keep track of it. Easy enough. Airspeed, same thing. Wet stats displays stats that change the fuel use. Dry stats, which is like more of your hard stats, like cornering speed, blind spots, control, and stability, plus per flight stress. Stats don't change during play. Speed stats, which is how fast you go. Integrity, which is basically how close the plane is to falling apart. Safety stats, which is all right. You have a bad landing. How likely is it that you walk away from it? Ordnance, which is to track bomb loads. Vital parts, same thing. G-force chart used to track G's sustained by the plane. Kind of actually a good thing that they noted that, because some of these airframes would fall apart very quickly under reversed gravity or basically -1 G's when you pull a certain kind of maneuver. Others would fall apart very quickly if you turn them too fast.
And that sometimes depended based on things like altitude or what type of engine. Something as simple as you put a different engine in can cause it to shake apart because of
Right.
resonance.
Resonant frequencies. Kill tracker, obviously, and then the picture of what you're fighting for, because that was a very common. That's cute. That's a cute trope. I'll be okay with that.
I'm just envisioning someone taking a picture of like some chicken nuggets and putting on there and just say, "Wait
I
till
fight
Wednesday."
for the nuggies. I fight for the nuggies.
So on the
Oh.
one hand, I think this is neat. On the other hand, the problem is
This feels complicated. Yes.
it
Well,
feels
here's
like a
something
lot
that
to track,
yeah.
which isn't a
Well,
problem, but this will turn off a lot of players.
here's something that I think helps. So they said at the beginning that you would need tokens,
And
and this
that's
is
where
where
they
the
come in.
come in. So, for instance, the altimeter has two different gauges: the ones and the tens. This shows you what your speed is at.
Oh, I hate this more now actually that I'm looking at it.
So that you can track your altitude. Airspeed indicator, same thing.
Your stats is half load, no bombs, and the stat modifiers.
Nah, the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm like, yeah, there's no wonder they did a bunch of fucking quests. This feels like a lot of stuff that the quest master has to keep in track, actually.
Yeah.
It's kind of ugly to me.
I do think that this is an interesting concept, though.
It's
I
an
kind of
interesting
like it.
concept,
I
but
kind of like it.
it intrinsically will scare off most players, I think.
Vital parts, including like what you lose as your plane gets hit. I think that's actually kind of useful.
Correct.
G-force tracker, which tells you how much is there, and they say it's not 1-to-1, so don't get your panties in a twist about that.
I want
Remember the
to I want
10
to experience 10
I want to
Gs.
experience 10 G-force. It's gonna fucking kill you.
No, I'm just envisioning 10 G-force on this little World War One fighter that could maybe go.
It
That's
also
called
is
War Thunder. That's called
it
playing War
yeah.
Thunder at low tiers.
It is also a modifier to all your rolls while it is in effect.
I want to see a World War One plane somehow crack the sound barrier rapidly and not explode.
I mean, it could crack the sound barrier as it's plummeting to the earth as you scream and die.
I'm just envisioning. I'm just envisioning like the Blariot Mark 11, like that fucking thing,
Yeah.
screaming
Yeah.
by 800 miles an hour. You see the sonic boom surrounding it. The French pilot is screaming in fear.
It's screaming
Man.
Frenchly. Sacre bleu!
Man.
You see like blood vessels bursting in his eyes.
No,
as
you
he's
see.
about to pass out.
No. Baguettes fly from the airframe.
We have to lose weight.
No, and he's being chased by a Wright flying machine with like a lawsuit attached to it.
Yeah. Free flight checks. Weapon system cards give you an idea. Okay, here's what they do. Simple enough.
So I already hate this even more because of the
Oh no,
cards.
to me this makes complete sense. This feels straight out of like Warhammer or BattleTech.
Yeah,
I
it's
I
your
hate cards.
life, like basically point blank, close range, long
Nah,
range, extreme range, and what
nah.
your
This is
chances are to hit and bonuses and all
Same
that.
thing for the engines, and you'll have engine types, so you
this is really
And how
killing my
many, like,
interest in this.
if you're pushing your engine hard or not, which fair enough. If you're designing aircraft and you're doing this, that
I
was a big
intrinsically
thing.
detest cards.
I know you
okay, this
intrinsically trust cars, but if this was just a stat tracker, would you be as happy about that?
I already have issues with the mechanics as it is. I feel like it's just becoming too complicated to be interesting.
It's about a World War I fighter plane. If this was not complicated, I would be kind of a little miffed.
listen,
I'm kind of
it's an
the
air.
opposite though.
It's not only that; it's an airplane simulator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen modern airplane simulators?
Have you tried to play DCS?
It's fucking insane.
Okay.
I'm someone who has played Falcon
Okay.
4, and I've enjoyed it.
This is probably why that this is very limited, and you're not going to get any players though.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. This is
I
a passion project.
It's a passion project, but I will be frank. By page 50, I would have just cut and skip.
Your eyes are glazing over as you have to monitor your RPM so your engine doesn't tear itself
Oh no,
apart as you're flying.
I gave up when I saw the pre-flight check board that you have to fill in. I gave up
Trust
from
me.
there
Trust me,
as a game
you have to
designer.
do that with an actual aircraft.
I don't give a shit. The whole point of this is to have fun.
Starting procedures, air combat.
And they give us
No, it's not that it's intimidating. I'm coming at this from the point of view of how easy would this to actually be to run? And I've run into a dude who legitimately at one point spent 3 hours building a barbarian. I have seen a dude who legitimately panicked and could not think to take a guy downstairs before the cops showed up in the building.
All right.
So I'm thinking at this from the point of view of what type of players are you going to deal with, and how often are you going to have to fucking remind them to fill all this in? And that makes this a lot less fun than you think it sounds.
I don't think this is for the average gamer.
I
This
think
is not. This is advanced autism.
Very much.
I think you're going to get a grand total of one game before you never find enough
Yes.
players again.
Almost certainly, but at the very least, it is playable. There are mechanics, and those mechanics work.
And it's specifically the cards, though.
All right. So
we've
I
got
know it's autistic, but like cards are just intrinsic poison.
now we get into the actual meat and potatoes, which is the combat, and they actually do this, and I like this. Basic flight is expected to be like, yep, it's fine. Things can go wrong, but generally speaking, your plane's going to go where you want it to go.
Also,
they don't use maps or
also
models.
accurate to the time takeoff routine, including contacts, which aren't like that's all accurate.
Yep. Air patrol gets going, get out there.
They talk about the speed factor, altitude effects.
Oh no, I
Basic
understand
light,
the reference card. It's
Yeah,
just when
yeah.
I think of cards, what I think of is buy these, fucko.
and then energy, which is actually very important when it comes to air combat. Speed is life. Airspeed is life or death. If you are going fast, chances are you will live. If you're going fast very, very low to the ground, you're kind of fucked. Altitude and speed are life.
Also, if you're going fast, you're probably not going to hit things.
Right. Altitude is how high you are. You're basically space starts at 1,000. You're not going to reach your biplane. Well, watch me fucking try.
Well, I mean, you could hypothetically go up to 10 Gs. Why not? Why can't I shoot up into space?
Yeah, the sound barrier is roughly 120 speed. You're not going to hit that in your biplane. Watch me fucking try.
No, watch me. Watch the dice. Let me do it.
Watch me fucking try. I will try to build a supersonic biplane in this system. Fucking watch me.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. If they're reference cards, I understand. I don't know. It's just
Yeah, they're reference cards. They're not like they're literally just part of the sheet of the aircraft.
You could also, when you're at high altitude, suffer from oxygen deprivation.
Oh,
Right,
all of
because
the
nobody
cards
at
are
this time
attached to the
had.
premates. Okay, that's fine then.
Yeah, like they're
I
just
much prefer
part
a
of the
plain
aircraft.
sheet over cards. I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
how I
it's just
think.
you can easily have it as a card. So like if you wanted to swap like stuff out on the fly, like a better engine or whatever.
And then
But it's
G-forces is a
G-force
penalty to
tracker.
all stat moves.
Yep, and potential injuries, things like that. It resets between combats because you're not doing crazy maneuvers. Piloting planes, stuff that makes sense, like crew controls, observers, mechanics, bombardiers, navigators, co-pilots, all that sort of stuff. Communication,
Passengers. Yeah,
which
which they point out radios were too heavy
radios are
to
too
track.
heavy. They were way
So,
too heavy at the time.
yeah. So they're using sign language.
Also, another fun thing I love is the nod that, yes, you can actually have people cling to the wings, which has been done
Yes,
repeatedly.
there was actually a famous incident in World War II during a night flight with a crew in a Lancaster where they had to get out onto the wings to restart one of the engines. I'm serious.
Oh, that's nothing. In World War One, I believe it was the Ilium Murmets. They had mechanics who were trained specifically to crawl onto the wings to do maintenance and repair.
In flight, Jesus fuck.
Yes.
While flak is going off, though, is the question.
It was originally supposed to be a passenger plane, though, so that was mainly for
Yeah,
concern purposes.
I can't remember the exact mission, but they were flying like low over the ground, actually getting gunfire, and they had to crawl out. Like there was a guy that's like, "Well, it's my last mission, but I guess it's better that everybody else goes home. I'm out on the wings. I'm gonna set up. I'm gonna stop the fire and get that engine burning again."
So when it comes to fighting, you will actually have weapons fire in arcs. 4, back, up, down, left, right.
Right. Which, when considered this is all roughly theater of the mind, that's kind of a good thing in terms of this gives the GM the ability to make sure that the dogfight doesn't scroll to a crawl as everybody moves around miniatures. All you have to do is keep track of arcs and whether or not you're maneuvering properly.
Given how complicated that is, that's probably for the benefit.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I can definitely see that they did enough playtesting to minimize some of the worst aspects.
So when you hit, well, first of all, I guess say you have different types of weapons. You got repeating weapons, rapid fire, manual weapons, static weapons.
Single shot weapons, because there's always that one crazy fucker that's going to put a recoilless rifle on a plane.
Case in point, the Russians actually shoved a 76.2 millimeter artillery piece on a plane once.
Yes, they did. They tried this with everything because their main thought was the recoilless rifle could easily be better than a standard cannon. In some ways, it is. Problem is, it doesn't work quite as well as you'd think. There's still recoil systems. It doesn't provide as much payload in some cases. Arcs are generally less effective. Like your range is usually decreased for the payload you're
The
giving.
one I'm thinking of, they realized very quickly that a plane of that type had a couple of shots in it before the wings ripped off because of the
Right.
backwards force.
Yeah, the recoil, the recoilless gas system would basically eject all of that energy back and out. So on the one hand, yes, you could fire a 76 millimeter shell out of a biplane. The downside is that biplane is going to be falling apart pretty fast. So they kind of ditched that idea. They also tried this with a ship as well. They tried seeing if a recoilless rifle would work well on like a boat. They quickly figured out that again the problem is the backblast is going to damage everything on the deck, and that creates problems.
Well, speaking of damages to the vehicle,
I do like this comment though. Pilots are like babies; they don't have object permanence.
yeah. When you take damage, if you get a crit, you can hit obviously fuel tanks, guns, engines, even crew members.
Yes. And
And
then they go with armor because
armor,
armor was in part of these early aircraft. As basic as they were, they had some designs for that.
fire, heading into battle. So once a target's spotted, the two sides move,
For
and
engagement,
they roll 2d10 to choose, if you start with altitude advantage, you'll spot the enemy, you'll
Oh, that's
catch
cute.
them spread out or
No,
coming behind
I like how
us.
the engagement works, where you roll your dice, and then depending on your results. I like that.
Yep. Then they do fuel check, which is what the GM can do if they
It
think the
represents the
combat's been
luck
going
of
too
how
long.
combat usually works.
Yep. And then, of course, I do like this fuel check, because this was a major problem with a lot of these early aircraft. They did not have a very long legs. They could stay maybe 2 hours in the air, tops.
Yep.
If you're flying, like, especially combat loads and all that, like, you burn through fuel very quickly. And if you run low, well, you're going to have to figure out a way to get back home.
Also, the ones that you have to factor in is if you flew under power, which is all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You've flown a long distance, which will be determined by the GM. Combat, because you're burning a lot to fight.
And if
And
you've climbed more than 1,000 meters,
yeah,
sorry, more than 1,000 meters, then
because
yeah.
you're trying to force with less air stuff into your engine.
Yeah. Fuel check is only ever pushed for the GM, and typically it gets pushed before, after, and between engagements, though it can also be swung mid-flight is a hard move, which, fair enough.
Yeah, this is winning me
I like
back.
this comment.
Like the
This cracks
complication
fuel
thing
up.
is more of the bar of entry. That's why I brought it up. Like this
Right.
has a high bar of entry, but once you get
once you
over
get
it,
there,
it's
it's
fine.
like, okay. And as a GM, this is useful because it means, like, okay, you're in a fight and this fight's been lasting forever. Fuel checks everyone.
No, this is working well for me, especially if you interpret the cards as just like I'm envisioning the plane sheet, and then you just
you
swap and
slot that
play.
on the sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're swapping it, and it's like, oh, I got a better engine for my plane. Here you go. That's a different engine.
I was coming at this from the point of view of a new player. I wasn't coming at it from my point of view.
I was coming at it from the point of view of someone who has designed battle mechs before. It's basically that.
Yes,
And
but I'm coming at this as, I want to play a dogfighting game. I've never really played one of those. I just want to be like a cool hotshot. Oh no.
Yep, extend, which
like
is
Babby's first
These are
RPG,
yes,
sort of.
these are the maneuvers you can do. So you can
it's key to
extend.
energy fighting. Don't get
Also
drawn
powered
into
by
it.
the apocalypse, calling these things moves and maneuvers, it actually works.
It works because this
It's
is how they would teach each other how to fly and teach each other how to do this sort of stuff. Some of the comments that you get out of like pilots that were talking about their survival and whatever, and like the tricks that they picked up, it's very similar.
Yeah, like there's one where it's like, well, here's one way to confuse your enemy: downward corkscrew as close to the ground as you can, and then a rapid pull up.
Right.
If you don't black out, the guy will probably nosedive
The
into
other
you.
guy is probably going to crash. So
And so you can do altitude adjustment, pulling up.
overstrain, which again,
Yeah.
these
Stalling.
planes are fragile; they will fall apart.
Also stalling, that's a thing that can happen.
Yep.
Bailing out.
Overspeeding, stalling, recovery, going down, collision. Because yes, this did happen.
Yeah, this book is for people who tried air fighting. Oh, yeah, I understand that to a degree, but the way I'm interpreting this is, think about it like this. You want to try something new, and you're actually willing to get out of that D&D pool. Let's say
Right.
you really like flying games, right?
Honestly, you could
book to pick
change
up.
this to, like, if you really wanted to push this, you could do this with fucking starfighters from Star Wars. The very basic stuff of this, like,
Oh,
Yeah.
I was interpreting that as, imagine if this was like a Rogue Squadron RPG.
yes, you
Oh,
could easily do that. You could change these a little bit, but stall
Especially
spin.
since a lot of the planes, like imagine being in a Z95 Headhunter.
Exactly. Like that's the thing. Like this is perfect for something like that if you wanted to just strip it out and use the core mechanics.
And let's say you're in or let's say you're in a TIE bomber, and you're trying to essentially do a run.
Right. And this because think about it like this: the air combat moves, stay on
Stay-
target,
stay
Yep.
on target.
and stay on target. Evading danger. There is Overwatch, which is a way of saying, okay, I'm a wingman,
I got your 6.
and I've got your 6.
Also,
Dogfight.
that is definitely a flying boat. It looks like an early Curtis model.
Yeah, it's really what's the
Because
Why
this-
is the engine just up on top?
One
like
of the
that?
because they did that.
Early
It's a
early
flying
models
boat,
did that.
so it wouldn't get wet. Yeah. There were other aircraft that would put their engine over top of the wing. Some of the
A
very
very
early
creative
bomber
one I
designs would do
saw.
so.
A very creative design I saw actually had two engines, smaller ones, along the top of the dorsal.
Yeah, early aircraft designs are absolutely crazy
But
because no
yeah,
one knows what the optimal form is yet. So you just get people throwing shit at the wall trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And so you get some really weird designs like
I
the
knew
big
it
old
was.
ducted fans.
I knew it was digging a brain thing in my brain. I was like, I've seen this before. You're right, Coyote. This is from Porco Rosso. This is during the Adriatic event.
Yeah, and
So
then
you,
there's
you've got like shooting moves.
chase shooting moves like range charts, basically like parts flying off, danger, jams as well, which was a very big part of these early machine guns, especially with the interrupter gears, is that you could jam them very easily while you're maneuvering in combat.
And then we finally get to the shooting mechanic. So
But by
Very
the way,
simple.
Squirrel Killer does make a point that you should probably be giving them pre-mades to start with if they're new.
Right.
yeah,
This is not a friendly RPG to new players.
It is not, but
But
hey,
I will say this, as of right now, it is in contention with Ruma as the best powered by the Apocalypse game I've ever seen.
I mean, as I said, it's a heavily modified version of Powered by the Apocalypse. It takes everything good that
It's
they
to the
can out of
point
it.
where you could probably market it as its own system.
100%.
Yeah.
Take fire. If no PC shoots you, roll shooters hard, murders targets keen. Basically, like how good are you at firing?
so I
Eyeballing.
did. I like this here. So with the open fire, so you roll based on your hard skill. Uh, on 11 through 15, so that's a
If the
near
range,
near it. You get closer. On a 2, you shift further away. On a 20 plus, shift closer 1, and then inflict damage hits accordingly.
so
Uh,
as long as you have ammunition, you can eventually walk fire onto target.
Yep.
yeah.
Also, you're rolling with your hardness specifically because those machine guns have a kickback.
Right,
You have to be
you're a
strong to
hard.
hold it.
You have to be strong because you've got to muscle that plane in position. Take fire when you're shot at, determine range, and roll keen because if you're not there where they're shooting, there you go. You'll avoid.
I think also it's roll minus your keen is what I'm seeing.
It's when you're
When
shot
you're
at.
means you're subtracting rather than adding the player's keen stats. So if they normally roll keen +2, they take fire -2. This represents the pilot flying defensively.
Yep.
Ah,
Basically, you're using your perception to avoid getting domed.
As I said, it's very clever that way.
yeah.
Draw a bead. If you carefully line a shot, choose one, then open fire. You get to choose if you crit, measure your range, so you can instantly, so you
Oh
don't
no,
have to open
you
fire.
have to say, yeah, I'm about to dome that pilot, and if you crit, yeah, you just
Maximum
killed the
time on
pilot.
target or clustered shots where you get extra crit die. And then after you shoot, the June shows, okay, because you tunnel vision, this could be a problem. Someone's coming in to get on your 6 or whatever else.
Then we have your
Oh
support
yeah, all of these
moves.
do tie into each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was a
Support
lot
moves
of good playtesting.
for your
Yep.
gunners and your observers. Oh, empty seat when there is nobody flying the plane.
Right. How stable's your aircraft? Because like, oh shit, I gotta put out the engine. That means I'm no longer piloting this. How stable is this airframe?
And wing walk.
Yeah, again, to
And
do
again,
shenanigans.
this points out how this actually uses these Power of the Apocalypse system well. It's saying exactly what happens when you roll. So on a 16 plus, it's a sure footing. You'll take a disadvantage on 11 to 15. On a miss, choose turn back, task unfinished, or you fall. And this is also good. They're leaving it up to the GM, but they're also saying these are the only things that can happen.
Right. They're limiting what you do so that the player knows what they're getting into right away. Because if I take a certain action and I succeed or fail, this is what happens. It's very simple, and it's something that a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games miss, is that you have to have a baseline so that when things go weird or wonky, you got this now, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, again, it takes back to like you look at like the original like Warhammer or Warhammer 40K, where it was somewhat of a skirmish game between two groups where you did have these baseline rules, but when there came to be these conflicts, you have the GM. This is exactly what it feels like.
Well, there's also Coyote says it best. Powered by the Apocalypse is kind of like GURPS in that you have to specialize it to what you
Yeah.
need.
Right.
If you do correctly, you get
You'll have
things like
fun.
Roma
And if you
or this
don't,
one.
you're not gonna have fun.
If you don't, you get Thirsty Swords lesbians.
Or
Right.
meat punks.
Then they have some stuff for on the ground, which is on foot. Like, what do you do outside of it? This is basically pointless. You can kind of skip it because who gives a shit? Oh my
Well,
god,
no,
look
look
at
at
that
the.
plane.
Well,
On
no, look at
page,
the killer deer.
The giant killer deer.
It's a weird perspective as well. Because
Yeah,
They didn't
and
have a good artist.
their artist here took a basic like tree thing, and then they didn't quite scale it right.
Well, no, because you see the plane, that is to scale. It's just they fucked up on the foreshortening of the pilot, so it looks
Right.
weird.
It's not only that, but also because of how the trees are laid out, it makes that tree that he's on, which should be gigantic, not look gigantic.
Yep.
yeah. So one of the things they explained about the wilderness is forests are basically ruled by the Fae. Cities are tombs with poison and the long dead. The specters of the long dead.
And it's safer to fly than walk.
Yeah.
Which
Which it actually then here
Why
it's
do
a
you
good
think there's a
reason
tank
why.
splat? Which I kind of want to
Yeah.
show this off too. I want to show the tank splat eventually.
yeah, that one's probably going to be worse because interwar early tank designs, it's like you can't really you can
Hell,
fly
the
a
engine
plane by
died.
yourself.
Send out the talking pigeon.
Right.
Because it's magic.
Like
you could have a talking pigeon.
Yeah, fuck it. That actually is more fun than
yeah.
some of this. So
We have the coming home section.
on the ground, personal attacks, all that. Landing. I love that they have one of those early shitty designs for like an attempted VTOL.
Oh no, this was
Where
an
they have-
early attempt at a gyrocopter.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks actually. I think this is based on an early Sikorsky model.
I think so, and it looks really funny, and I
It
kind
also
of
didn't
like it.
work very well.
Well, of course it didn't. Look at the fucking thing. Of course it's gonna work like shit.
How does that thing even
It doesn't.
stay
It
in the air?
spins. It goes up, but then it
It can't
spins.
stabilize itself. It just starts spinning around in the direction that the rotors are going. And the only way for it not to is that you have contra-rotating propellers.
Which
But
they
even
didn't
then,
figure out until the 1920s and 30s.
right. So once they figured that out, it's stable-ish. And then you try to move this thing forward, and it's like, what lift? Where's your lift? Oh god, fuck, we're all gonna die. And then it crashes again.
Oh no, Pagan Pilot came up with a plot hole. If everything is dead and filled with fairies or ghosts, how do they get their fuel?
Ghost fuel.
I'm envisioning.
fuel.
Well, here's my hypothesis. Okay, so you take pixie dust, you take the fairies, like Tinkerbell, and then you
ride
throw
with the
them.
fairies and shove it in your engine.
No, you throw them into a whimsy extraction device. Record their screams as their magic is pumped into your engine.
Wow.
I feel like that was an SCP or an episode of the Fairly Odd Parents.
Or maybe it's
Alright.
powered by the soul of an orphan.
Yeah, I mean, we just put the orphans in the engine.
Your
Orphan?
planes are powered by the souls of unfortunate children. I mean, they've been dead for like 20 years, so they're fully grown.
No. You see, they figured out a way to convert Albanians to fuel, as is the dream of every Victoria 2 player.
Oh, I thought this was going to be what happened to the Sky Romani, since this is a very European setting.
That's why they're still around.
This book has won me over again.
Yeah.
So when it
coming
comes
home.
to so they make a point that landing and only begins when everyone has made it back home safe.
You can skip that, though. It doesn't really matter.
Like, let's say
Won't
you
break
don't
anything.
know if they survived the crash. Sometimes you just have to go back.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to go back.
Then you take
Taking stress.
Yep.
Very simple. Planes have flight stress stats.
And they can
Planes
only have
have
up
to
to
get
10,
fixed up.
yeah. They can only have 10 stress. Then you have
There's no
company
penalty,
reputation.
and Yeah, there's no penalty and no potential benefit for taking more stress than 10. So you want to keep it below 10.
Which is for fame. It's did you do the job indisputably, making the world a better place? Was the mission witness ended up making you look skilled? Did you forego pay for this job?
And then I love this one too for infamy. If it's like, do you want to be a real bastard? Here you go. Did the job measurably make the world a worse place? Did you commit war crimes? Did you target the orphanage deliberately?
I'm just envisioning you're going after like this particularly notorious mercenary group. Why are you doing this? I just want to see how shitty I can make this world before I go.
Yeah, the world must burn.
No, it's not even the world must burn.
It's
I
like
want
the
to see
fucking
how
Ace-
much worse I can make it.
Again, it's just Ace Combat. It's Ace Combat 0.
But with your piloting skills, you could have stopped all the monsters. I don't want to stop
I
the
don't want to stop
monsters.
all the monsters. I want to destroy the world. I must reset this twisted game.
Oh no, he's not
I
even
do like
reset the
yeah.
twisted game. I just want to do it because I think it's funny.
Right, fame moves, which is
I do like this that yeah, you actually
you
get benefits.
Including down will offer minus D10 for jobs and they have a sob story. This is a really good infamy to throw out cheese that are otherwise mostly upstanding to bite Scottish infamy, which means that they're suckers.
Yeah.
This is Deathmark. Name an organization or a circus with a long reach that's not hostile. They will shoot on sight. Some of these are pretty good. They have Feared, which is actually a pretty good fame idea because it's like, okay, a battle clock for how long the enemy is going to actually stick and tussle with you because they're worried about all fucking dying, which is important. Like this is part of the reason why the Flying Circus is famous for painting their planes like that. Is part of it was to make other pilots just turn away. Solid, good reputation. You get extra company value.
This book fucking uses Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Town wealth. Look at it.
Oh wow.
That's Maslow's
That is-
hierarchy of needs.
That
I
is.
love it.
Yes.
Actualizing ideological good. That actually is, I would say, impressive.
It makes sense. If you're a mercenary group, this makes sense.
Ah.
Well, though also for the amount of wealth the town will have.
Right. If it's just basics, why the fuck are you taking a job here? They don't have anything. If they're like a fucking group of guys that are doing like luxury shit, yeah, sure, they're gonna have money. And if they're buying, and if they can afford to buy you because they want you to terror bomb some people for ideological reasons, obviously they're gonna pay you more.
Oh, I like this part. Running out of patience. For each town, the GM should create a 6-segmented countdown clock. Every time the pilots do something that annoys the town, like starting fights, breaking stuff, or sleeping with important people's family members, the clock gets marked. When they spend a lot of money or do a job, spot gets raised. If it's filled, the circus gets kicked out.
And that's when you knock down their hierarchy of needs to acquire the basics out of revenge.
Right.
And then here's stress relief, which is marked
which is the
by.
Oh, by the way, look up in the upper left corner. There's the book. The game is right there.
Now look at the bottom right corner.
I don't want to.
Yes. Yeah. You don't.
Is that a mechanical? That's a salami slicer. Or a pizza. That's an electronic. Slicer. That's an electronic pizza cutter.
A meat tenderizer.
It's to beat your meat.
I also guess the beast people that the people fetishized on sufficient velocity are also big.
Yeah, the perspective on this image is real shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. This is the part of the book that I'm like, yeah, this is cringe. This is Tumblr.
Also, with the fish people, so the tattoos are glowing.
Yep.
Yes.
That's got to be annoying.
Oh yeah, for sure. Pilots
it's one of the many
circus,
ethnicities. Yeah.
You fly. Well, business before pleasure. Well, flying in flying circus, your pilots don't. The first thing they want to do when they hit solid ground is to drown themselves in booze, drugs, music, companionship, and anything else that might distract them from the fact that they just died.
That just actually reminds me of one of the funnier. I mean, it happens. It does. It's not surprising when one of the first crashes was caused by a pilot trying to be cute and getting a blowy while flying.
Oh yeah.
Wait, what?
Like
that has happened at least multiple times during World War I.
Or around before it.
That's why we have the autopilot.
Oh, which of the players has not had fish for dinner?
I just no, I just I just realized since they're fish people, I'm just envisioning this is blowjob dolphins ancestors. It's
Also, wait, what does
blowjob
it?
dolphins ancestors.
Wait,
And hand job dolphin.
if they all smell like fish, how do they figure out what it smells like down there?
Oh, don't ask questions. Anyway,
It actually smells like Thai curry. It
in
smells like
general,
peanut sauce.
they talk about stress. So if you have more than
Yeah.
5 stress, you are stressed. You can't spend XP. You need to level out. Chill down.
That's I like
Fair
that
enough.
as a mechanic.
When you're burnt out, you hit your maximum stress. You'll stay burnt out until you lower your stress enough that they're no longer stressed. When they're burnt out, they disadvantage, press the issue, negotiate pay, and get real. And they cannot fly again until they're no longer burnt out because it's like we are not trusting a mentally unstable pilot to be in the air.
You don't understand. I want there to be a 20 stress where you become irrevocably insane and have to be sent to the asylum. I want to see how high this number can go, damn it.
Yeah, we're just fucking going nuts. So the primary way of getting rid of stress, obviously, is vice, because this is literally what pilots would do.
So you indulge in vice, and when you do that, you add +1 to the vice
Anxiously
track.
smoking pack for an hour.
Then face consequences in the form of an ongoing disadvantage or a GM move.
Like you getting cancer because you're a fucking pack-a-day smoker to try to stay in the air.
I'm just low-key envisioning... I'm just... Also, they clarify for the rules lawyers. Yeah, having a beer with a meal, that doesn't count as your vice.
We're talking like you have to go and hit a bar and come
You are
back
getting
with like
blackout drunk.
But actually, if they point here for the end of the night, you roll a d20 for each mark on the vice track. Take a +1 for each attendant hold spent. 11 through 15, remove 1 stress. 16 plus, remove 2. If you get 3 or more misses, you can choose to become either addicted to the vice, immune to it, or take +4 stress.
because it just isn't fucking working anymore.
Or it's working too well.
Right. Confidants, very simple concept, which is an important NPC, which is an ongoing relationship, which could easily be this is a commanding officer, this is a mechanic you are dealing with. It could be a girlfriend, a lover, whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Oh, look, a heterochromia cat girl.
Oh, hey, look, another person who spent money to get their OC, their Tumblr OC,
Yep.
into this book.
Confidant trust, they have trust things. So that remember that like blowing trust, gaining, losing trust earlier? That's where this can apply, which is kind of nice.
Or if you have a detail in your confidant, you know, let's see.
Quality time.
This is just confidant details.
Right. Just add details to that.
The thing is, though, is that because of this, if you lose a confidant, such as them being wounded, that's 5 stress. Confidant dying is 10 stress.
No shit. A few routines.
Oh, wait, I see a reference there. Look at that paper right next to the wall.
Oh my god, it's the fucking
Totoro.
My Neighbor Totoro. Yeah.
Aha, Studio Ghibli. So iconic. To quote the guy who made all of these whimsical anime was a mistake. Nothing but dreams and nightmares.
Miyazaki.
Quality
Otaku are
time.
scum.
So you can use this time with your confidant
to remove 2 stress, which can be used once per clock, which is useful.
And get 2 XP.
And they also make a note that no matter how many confidence you have, this can only apply once, which is a good balancing move and something to prevent people from saying, "Well, I have a harem, so."
Then you have other ways to, I guess,
on the
continue
ground.
your stress relief, like talking.
You know the sad thing is, for the stress relief, I originally thought they were either going to play the knife game or he was going to burn his cigarette into her hand.
Oh, yeah.
No,
so
this
press
is
the
good
issue.
stress relief.
Yeah.
I hurt you because I love you.
Exchange moves, I think.
Yeah, which
you
is
get into a brawl.
Yep. Brawling, because what is a good fighter movie without a bar brawl?
I
of
love
some
the
kind?
CGI food.
I know. It's like the design, they designed the set and then they drew their characters in
This is High Guardian
after.
Spice. This is bread.png.
It's like that one. It's like I
I'm
forget
betting you
the
that I will
YouTuber
find
who
this
does it, but
person.
it's that like post-apocalyptic animation. So the can of whoop ass.
I'm imagining this person drawing somebody for drawing like the lady buying Wonder Bread in front of like a CGI'd Walmart.
Oh
And
no,
you
no, no!
get
In High Guardian
yeah.
Spice, what happened was they legitimately took a lossless background PNG picture of some bread, put it into the show as part of the dinner spread while they were talking
Oh
about
my god.
food, while meeting characters that have nothing to do with anything except for one episode.
All right. The next step
Um
though is finances, and this is actually
yeah.
kind of an interesting thing where
This is High Guardian Spice if there was competence in the production.
So
so they talk about
God, I hate
spending
that
money
money.
and getting
yeah,
money, and it's like
Oh,
your
it
tab.
hurts.
I like that. Yeah, the tab, which is when you spend money, um, you tap. It's not
Put
the
it on the
whole.
tab.
Yeah, buy a beer, buy a round for the whole bar. Subsequent repairs on the bar, everything is a tab. Then when you resolve your
And the
tab,
more
you
you
roll a
mark on the tab,
d10.
add dice equal the
Yeah.
town's wealth.
Yep.
Because these wealthier towns are more expensive, maybe making you pay for even if you didn't buy anything. And small numbers of purchases are effectively free in towns with negative wealth scores because they're so desperate for your money that they're totally willing to take you on credit. For each one rolled, the routine's expenses go up by one. Then get stuff, sell stuff, prices for various things as ideas, medical treatment, important, employees, pay your employees, labor problems, where you could get your employee. This is actually a smart thing because, yes, support staff, in fact, do not wish to be worked to the ground. And if you are running a mercenary company, the quickest way that you can end up in trouble is for your support staff to go on strike.
Or alternatively, they mutiny, kill you, take your equipment, and start
Sell
under
it.
their own.
Right. So labor clock should be ticked if employees are treated poorly, wrongfully fired, asked to go above and beyond to get it done in time, or put into danger beyond expectation. Makes sense. Along with not getting paid on time, like they're
So
willing to float a little bit of time because yeah, you're a mercenary unit. Steady payment isn't always available.
so you know how iHunt had economics as its mechanic,
Yeah,
but was kind of really shit at that
yeah.
This is better.
Well,
because
there's
it makes it
mechanics,
into a gameplay. There's mechanics to it.
and there's a logic to it, and it's not being written from the point of view of you're just exploiting your workers, man. As I try
And
to explain to you, yeah, it's
It's
every
there's
like
also
time.
the thing
and they
because
basically say like
there is also this where a more wealthier town will give you more money, but at the same time, costs in that town are more expensive.
Yeah, items that would
right.
be free in a cheaper town. Like let's say you go to a wealth plus one town, like the security one. If you went to the plus three stuff, you might have to actually spend dollar directly.
Right, you can't just do this on tab or in exchange for your services as mercenaries. You have to spend money, actual hard currency.
And no
And I do
barter.
like the talk about the labor cost clock where they're like around 3 ticks, employees will start wondering about unions, collective action, and otherwise doing something about the situation. If it gets full, you've got a strike on your hands, which includes stuff like back pay, raises, percentage cut of profits from jobs, better working conditions, or you're all fired. Create new characters.
Then cut to the high infamy team run by the biggest assholes. Just cut to them using their machine guns, and then go. Well, now we're gonna have to get
Now we have
completely
to
new
yeah.
mechanics.
Now we have to spend a bunch of money to actually get new mechanics because we machine gunned all of ours.
just as the World War One military taught us to.
I do like the talk about used planes because this can apply very well to like as I said, starfighters. If you're doing this as a Star Wars style thing, burnt out, raggedy, hefty, sticky guns, weak,
Well, no, this
fragile,
makes
leaky.
sense also because Star Wars, especially in the original trilogy setting, was not too long after the Clone Wars. We're talking less than 20 years. You can find some interesting
Yeah,
stuff.
it's Right, and this is all good for this. You could easily run this as like your small ragtag mercenary unit on the outer rim.
I'm
That
just
would actually be a lot of fun, I think.
I think
Yeah,
it's
we'll,
winning
we'll
me
say
over
this
really hard.
to the people who made Flying Circus: make a Star Wars version.
Make a space version of this. I would be very interested in seeing how you do that.
Especially
Or a
since you'd have to
Gundam version of this, actually. That could be really interesting.
they might be more inspired for Gundam, and there are planes.
Yeah.
There's the Starfighters. They probably wouldn't do mecha. They seem more interested in planes.
But I mean, really, the difference between a mecha and a plane, if you're talking the mechanics of this sort of game, is not
Their
that
cockpits are
different.
essentially early Gundam and mobile suit cockpits were essentially very similar to fighter jets. It wasn't until the Saikamu system was made that it changed up.
Right. I mean, you just have to change around the altitude. No, not even really the altitude, because if you're talking about like mostly space engagements for Gundams.
Well, they also are all-terrain. They can walk around too. So
Yeah, so
it'd be
maybe a little
complicated
bit of
because you'd have to splice the tank mechanics.
yeah, but I guess it could work.
I think a Starfighter RPG, if
Yeah,
they
they
did a
could easily
splat
do a
for it,
Starfighter RPG.
and they
That'd be
did
something.
little nods to like Traveler or space
Star
battleship
Trek,
Yamato,
Star
Trek,
Trek,
Star Wars,
Star
Babylon
Wars,
5,
Battlestar
Oh.
Galactica actually would
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
perfect idea of
Galactica
this.
especially.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like the Raptors and all that shit.
So moving on then, when they talk about finding work for clients, you roll with the wealth modifier. On a hit, there's a job. 16, there's good work to be had.
Good work, no problems really. On a
The GM rolls up a mission with 2 complications, and a player will pick one below.
so there is one complication and then one bonus thing out of it.
Yeah. On 11 through 15, 2 complications. On a miss, you get a particularly dangerous mission, or there isn't any work to be had.
And you need to
But
move
then,
on.
then you
go to
negotiate.
negotiation, which I think is a good way of doing it. Where it's like the better you, it's not that you can't find work, it's that the work you find is kind of shit.
Job
Fair enough.
sources like government, private
Government,
interests,
private
military, the
other
Fae.
pilots,
The Fae.
the Fae.
It happened to be hired by the Lords of the Wild. They won't pay you in money, but they will
pay you.
Also, something I really like is you have the job type all listed. And
Yep.
then I will say I'm not a fan of having to have a D20 since up until then it's just been D10s.
It's just been D10s, yes.
Not
but
the
hey,
biggest fan of that.
just flip a coin if you roll 2 1s.
There's also complications, which I also like. You can just have on hand.
Yeah, very quick for mission generation, which is fine, and then some ideas, which are kind of fun too.
Oh look at this! Look at this sky monorail train.
I know, right?
Is there a fucking wizard?
Yes.
You were helping a wizard engaging in a gun battle with
To
a
rob
dude
an
on a
armored
space
train. Wait, this is just wait. This was made in 2020, right?
Was this in? I want to say this was a scene in fucking Solo.
It is. They robbed the train.
They did, but hey, it's a steampunk version of it. You can't be too mad.
It works.
It was still the best part of that movie. A skyline.
Some mission ideas to help the GM.
Yeah, some of these are pretty good. Some of these are not.
I'm getting tired of the cat girls.
I am too. Negotiation, piracy, and salvage. Because hey, what can you get out of this?
Whale bones and oil. Oh, please tell me there's sky whales.
Someone's been playing
There are
Dishonored.
sky whales. I mentioned sky whales earlier as like a sky whale graveyard.
And then we get reflection. These quiet moments of introspection, like, why the fuck
Here's
am
how
I
you
doing
spend
this?
when you spend your XP, basically like this is after you've done all those next steps in preparing for the next mission, spend your XP, and
So
then we
you
move
get-
on to the
Oh
next.
god,
yeah.
look at that plane design tech. Look, the propeller, it's a compartmentalized front
Oh
observer
my
gunner
God.
cockpit that is detachable with the propeller there.
Oh my god.
That's their solution to dealing with the
The interrupter gear-ish. I think there was a design like that. It's
There
just they never
was.
built it.
There was, but when they did initial testing, they couldn't get the clamp or the propeller to work right. The thing kept
Right.
falling off.
Right, I was going to say, like, they couldn't get the engine to work properly because there was too much friction.
Yeah, then the thing kept falling off too.
Yeah, the front fell off. It's not supposed to do that, but it did.
I'm just
It's just not
envisioning.
normal.
Oh god, that's why this annoying anime cat man who was wearing a that's a headset. That's not their real ears. That's like a headset, I think.
That's a headset. They're the observer, and they're trying to listen in, and they're like, this isn't going to work, man. I can't make this work like this. Like, you've got to understand.
No, the gunner is just like, no, I don't care. I don't care if I fall from it.
That's how they do their radar. Is they have the
They grow fox
giant
ears.
to listen in.
Wait,
They're doing echolocation.
Does that mean they get the signals in the tail that's plugged up there?
Yes.
It's like the chess guy.
Exactly, the chess guy. For those not in the know, there was a guy convicted of cheating at a chess grand championship using a vibrator shoved up his ass.
Well, remember, they also use BDSM to tell you about safety rules, so, you know.
Yeah.
Advancements?
So the more stress you get, and the more you clear, the more XP you get. So it's encouraging you to actually take stress, because the more stress you take, the more XP you get. But if you max it out, you can't spend any until you reduce it down below 5 again.
Mental Breakdown, the RPG.
Right. It's actually kind of clever that way.
I'm just envisioning someone min-maxing an anxiety machine.
Right. Then they have a bunch of ideas for masteries, which is, some of these are pretty great. Like, all right. Momentum, G tolerant, get extra tolerance against G's, reduce your energy loss. Ambush predator. When you attack an enemy who's unaware of your presence, roll with advantage. On an 11 through 15, you may choose to abort the attack instead of wasting ammunition and just return back up above them unseen.
Oh, by the way, aces. You can become a legendary ace.
Yes, if you shoot down, basically whenever you become an ace, you get bonuses, and then there's legendary ace stuff. There's a dangerous merge, slipstream master. All these are really good. Of like ideas for like how you can improve a character. I kind of like this.
Wait a minute. How are you able to monetize this if you have a Harry Potter term in here?
Which one?
Ronsky Feint. That's a Quidditch move. No, seriously, it's from Harry Potter.
Which page was that?
I'm on page 126, Ronsky Feint. It is a type of move that's used in Quidditch where it's a sharp nosedive until you pull up at the last second.
They changed the letters of it.
No, that's actually how you spell it.
Oh fuck. Well,
you might want to change
that. You might want to change that instead of the Cobra maneuver.
Hey, look, they had to do the beach
episode.
Deck.
Yeah, they've got the beach episode with everyone wearing the 20s era swimsuits.
You're saying that, but here's the part. Here's the thing. Since this is based on anime, I'm gonna go with one of them is going to die horribly less than 10 minutes after this scene.
Look, also, but I mean, they're also playing beach volleyball, so is it also a Top Gun reference?
Yes.
Also, so first up, check up the farmer.
This is won me over completely.
Yeah, the background stuff is where this kind of.
No, you need to look at the images of the farmer characters.
It's fucking Luke and Leia.
Yes, to the point where one of the moves is, "I will be with you always."
Luke and
why
didn't you tell me for your custom move there? Oh,
here
that's
goes
great.
Nothing. Let's try spinning.
Why didn't you tell me?
1 in a million, kid. That's...
Oh no! And I realized look at the farm. 2 suns. Well, it's not. It's a sun and then the reflection.
Well, no. Also keep in mind the windmills are where the evaporators are. There's the right flyer. That's the sky. That's Luke's ride. And notice that it's submerged partially under the grass, like the Lars homestead.
Trust your instincts.
This is where the fun begins.
I'm just envisioning. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. No. I am your like he's
That's
talking to
actually
Darth Vader as an ace pilot. He's wearing like a complete aviator mask and like a fucking skull based bandana around his mouth.
you came in that thing. It's all a giant Star Wars reference, and I'm entirely behind
It's
this.
working.
It's
It's-
working.
Oh my god.
The soldiers.
Yeah, this has won me over on
Yeah.
every level possible.
All right. The soldiers.
It's the soldiers, which is like exaggerated reasons for
One
like the
is
military stuff.
Yeah.
somewhat based on Han.
Stiff.
Stiff upper lip,
I
in
don't know.
shining armor, strategist, marching boots, trigger discipline.
It's the way he's holding
This
the gun.
one's
It's the
this
way
one's
he's
more
holding the gun
simple.
and how sloppy he is.
The next
I
one
think-
is the
yeah.
Fishers, which is
The f-
Nice try,
Also-
Fortress, by the way.
these are people who, I guess, are in contact with the Elder God. Quote, on a more mental level, the Fishers are the queer reclamation of the monstrous.
oh god, are we going to go into this? Let's just
It
not.
is a common trope to code a character or group as untrustworthy or villainous. By
Let's
associ-
not. Let's just
So,
skip that so
I'm
that we
go-
can
no,
we
no,
can
no.
actually
Well, they then bring
enjoy-
up
have
Lovecraft.
to.
It's like,
We have to, and the only thing I will say is grow up. This is stupid. You wanted shark people. You just wanted fucking shark people. You decided to make them mages. Okay. Chill the fuck out. Signed, a person on that fucking rainbow.
Oh no.
Sorry, I just like that is
Yeah.
so pathetic. Don't
You think
do that.
this is the thing? Everything up to this point, I'm enjoying quite a bit, and then we hit the survivors as the description for the themes.
oh.
Oh, like don't.
Go fuck
don't.
yourself.
Wait.
This is hackneyed. Go fuck yourself. So keep in mind,
Because the survivors, what you can do with something like this is a group of people who are surviving the fucking apocalypse. Just go with Stalker. Just go with that
in
sort
mind-
of your vibe.
keep in mind that before then we got the soldiers and farmers, which are fun.
Then
They
the Fisher.
are fun. Then you got the Fisher, which is a case of shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. It's current year. And then you got the Survivor, which this feels desperately like you're trying to appeal.
This is the
This
problem
is navel
because
gazing.
right, because here's the thing about this idea of like the survivor, right? Especially in this sort of context of like this is supposedly a post-apocalyptic thing.
Correct.
You can easily have this be a survivor of a previous unit or a survivor of the general fucking shittiness of the world.
If I
And
had
then they
to
go
write this as a
immediately
theme-
into like as a theme, there's a couple of ways that you could approach this.
survivor's guilt, like you survived abuse, like you've
Yeah.
gotten out of a horrible situation, you have post-traumatic stress disorder, like coming at it from that.
Yeah. Like that's how this should be approached
This
from
should
of
have
like
been
this is the
shell shock.
damaged this is the shell shocked pilot. I do like the masked idea though that at this point they are more comfortable wearing their mask than they are not because they're so used to it.
That is fine. They also have a
Like-
comfort animal. I don't like
Comfort object.
I don't like the stink gas coming off of them though.
Yeah. The comfort
Because
object
that adds
sort of
a-
works.
Well, no, because the stink lines, when you're going with what it feels like to be a transgender person, it feels kind of like a weird backhanded compliment.
Yeah, like
The
when we're talking about the
Fishers
rest
are
of
your
it,
gay or be gay worship Cthulhu.
be gay, fuck fishmen.
Be gay, yeah, Shub Nigurath.
Oh, and then we go up to the
Yes,
Skyborn.
Zaboob.
The gypsies.
Oh, this is gonna be cringe.
Yeah, it's just the Romani.
Have
It's the Romani.
It's
Nomad.
The Romani.
Which includes
Do they have special theft mechanics like in White
No, they
Wolf?
do
Well,
not.
no, they have Sanskrit derived. Their ship strict hierarchy implies a caste system, and their sheet implies a third gender on the lines of Hijra, which
We get it.
don't
We get
know
it.
if
You're
the
trying
Romani
really hard.
had.
We get it. We're trying really hard. Now the rest of it is actually
No, we
interesting.
get it. We're trying
And it
very
works really well.
cynically to be diverse by stealing the term that Indians use for making men do women's work. That's what that
Yes,
gender means.
we
Go
get
fuck
it. Now
yourself.
please actually talk about the rest of it, because the rest of it is actually not bad mechanically. It's literally, this is your space, this is your Sky Pirate background. Swashbuckle, Leap of Faith, What's Up Danger, We Have History. It's literally Jack fucking Sparrow.
So the believer is the rebellion, essentially.
Yep. The Rebellion.
You have
Uh,
the nobility.
you create, yeah, your stuff like that. You got your
I,
nobility and all that.
I don't quite like the take on the Scions because if you're gonna do a World War I setting, I don't know who wrote this, but they really should. They really dropped the ball on the character archetypes after the first two.
The first one is literally the best
It's
one.
hilarious.
It's hilarious. You're just taking a movie with a lot. You could have. God, you know what they should have done is they should have just grabbed everything with a fucking fighter pilot that they could think of in it, and then grabbed an archetype out of that, and then just named everything out of that after quotes from the movie. You could be my wingman anytime for the soldier, like everything like that.
Yeah, soldiers
I
that based
wouldn't
on
have been
Top Gun.
mad.
For the
Yeah.
Survivor, you know who I'd actually reference? From Star Trek, Teleporter Chief O'Brien, because he was a veteran who basically did a lot of things he wasn't proud of during the Cardassian War.
Another one that I would have gone with for that one is actually Catch-22.
That one also would work. As for the Scions, one of them has to be based on Char, and one of their abilities should be I came to laugh at you.
Exactly. Like, just Gundam. Just grab out of Gundam, grab out of all that. It would have been a lot better. You would have had a lot more fun.
But you decided to cry about something that's not been an issue for well over a decade and a half at this point.
It's more like this is the price you paid to get people to kickstart it, I guess.
I don't think so. I think this was cynical. Maybe it was just like cynical because you realize how easy it is that a diversity and their money are very easily parted, because that is something corporations did notice really easy. Gay people are really easy to trick into giving up their money. Like really fucking easy. It took 20 years for them.
Yeah. In any case, like
The workers.
workers is like you're just from a standard working class background.
This one's
There's-
not very inspired.
None of like this is like we just included it because we
You had one that was really inspired and then
You
gave
had
up.
one that was really good, and it was. Why would you choose any other background?
Also, the choice in having whoever wrote the themes really should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, like the actual mechanical section is all really good, comparatively speaking. Like, it's an actual functional game.
And that's why we had to point out the bad, because we're trying to show the game including its warts.
Now the
By the way,
I will say
the
that
student,
there's
one of
yeah.
them is based on Dr. Jones.
Oh,
Oh,
The
yep, it
combination of
is.
hair, like this is Dr. Jones. The only thing he's missing is his glasses.
And this gives you extra skills to use for various
I
things.
do like
Okay.
the skill system here. You know, lower attributes, but the bonus is that.
By the way, despite trying to be diverse, congrats. You're basing it on English derived neo-paganism. Wicca's a joke. Sorry. Just had to move that on.
Yeah, the witches.
Wicca's lame. You had a variety of cultural traditions you could have based it on, including the Chinese philosophy, Indian style gurus, Native American mysticism. But nah, you had to choose the very generic.
Whatever the fuck Aleister Crowley was doing.
Wine Mom's first paganism.
And you got 6 natures: earth, water, fire, air, iron, and blood. I see somebody's watched Avatar. I see somebody's watched Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Lame.
Should have been the Chinese elements.
With casting spells.
Metal, wood, fire. It should have been the Chinese elements. Come on.
Yeah. And then that's basically that. Then equipment, which just includes a bunch of equipment
they still
tags.
haven't explained the Fox people.
Yeah.
By the way, they have an SKS there. Wait, is that a shitty Lebel? That's a Mars automatic. Okay.
It is.
Yeah, that's actually okay. So they got no, that's a Moss 38. My bad on that on Labelle. They have a Mars automatic, an SKS with a. That one's kind of silly. What looks like a cut down. I can't identify that one on on the left, far left.
That's a cut down SKS, I think.
No, that is not a cut down SKS. That looks wrong for the gas system.
I don't know. It's just
Uh,
it's the lever. It's that kind of lever, but that also has a box. It has a.
the problem with that is the charging handle. Like,
Oh, it was kickstarted in 2017.
yeah.
Okay. That part's still easily the worst aspect of the book, though.
Yep. And a bunch of stuff for like, here's the cost of hiring people. Here's all of your stats for all of the weapons. And then how to convert weapons if you want to do things like, I want to heat ray.
It feels weird that there's a lot of Soviet-inspired equipment, and then just randomly all the armor's German.
Right. I
It
mean, part
feels
of it
weird.
is that isn't all Soviet weaponry though there, because you got French, British
I
designs
know,
there
but
as
the
well.
guns are mostly non-German, but the helmets and stuff are.
Right.
Oh, also combat wheelchair. Those things are invincible. No, seriously. You can for $100 you can get an
A
unbreakable
punt
thing.
a punt gun. They actually include that as a weapon, which I think is funny.
Well, you need the punt gun to kill dragons.
True. I mean, in this setting, you probably would be using that to hunt dragons. Other ideas
Dynamite charges
is,
that you could yeet from your plane.
yeah, air-to-air rockets, clockwork missiles,
I like
which
how you could
include,
still use muskets.
yeah, Flieger Flammenwerfer.
Anti-armor rifle.
I love this though. The wing blade, in case you want to be, full anime.
The balloon gun.
The balloon gun, yes.
The precision rifle. Look, that's like a. Oh god.
Yeah, like a long barrel rifle on a stabilizing platform. That'd be more of like you have
That kind of
a
reminds me of the boys.
a harpoon launcher, because of course you have to have something like that for a sky
Sky
pirate
pirates,
setting.
yeah.
The next ones are where we go
The
kind of fun.
clockwork missile.
Yes, it's literally just a heat-seeking missile.
Weapon
Uh,
conversions.
by the way, also the Flieger Flammenwerfer. It works Flammen while you Flieger.
A pneumatic weapon. Oh, they don't have the air pressure gun like the USS Vesuvius had.
That's kind of what that's supposed to be. Because it
Imagine
jams
the
after
pneumatic
rapid
cannon.
fire. Getting in depth, then they have a bunch of advanced rules for like flak, weather, bombing.
Imagine being the one pilot that got shot with a musket in a dogfight.
I think we can kind of start to wrap it up here though, because this is more of like the advanced rules,
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
these
they
are
go
terrains.
later into like lore and everything, but
I think the lore is at least something we should
it's at
show.
least solid. You've got various warlords. Some of them are basically
yeah,
In
because like a lot of the
fairness,
advanced rules is
Germans.
is
Some of
stuff
them are just,
like, yeah,
there's this whole space whalers.
oh, specialty belts which allow you to color code what type of bullets you're using.
ammos and all that. Yeah,
That's
like
cute.
there's a lot of like neat stuff in here where where it's like, okay, they really wanted to make this. You can get this feeling of that, right? Like they really wanted to make this.
Fighting a clockwork robot.
Yes. Like you've got death rays on some of these aircraft and all that. There's fun stuff.
Where's the setting? Because I just want to go a little bit over that specifically.
It's like page 240.
Fair enough. I'm actually thinking it's a good idea to put it near the end. Oh, the bad guys creating threats and how you do that.
Yep. Threats, they have a lot of options for that. Actually, on page 247,
How
there
to create
is
a rival
a
ace.
discount.
Bandits.
Page 247 has. I have no idea how to describe this other than like. This is obviously a Titan with the serial numbers filed off from Warhammer. But I kind of like it because it looks so stupid.
The Gotha Empire is the main bad guys, it seems like.
Yeah, Goths are a large scale, like, think of it between like a mix of like the War Boys is where they say their original idea was like the War Boys, but then they basically say like they're basically just Nazis, just use them like you would Nazis.
Fair enough.
The Clockworks, which is the automatons,
Machine
Leviathan
threats.
machine. That's that. Then they have Fae.
Oh, I love the Leviathan machine.
I like it. It's so silly.
I love it.
It's so ridiculous looking. It's just someone you're asking someone who's never drawn a mech before to draw a mech, and they just draw this, and you're like, okay, that's cute.
Gremlins are an atrocity. Also, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. Something about the Fae just
I don't get why they're in here. I really
it
don't.
feels tacked on.
Yeah,
Like I don't
you have
really
enough.
like.
You have enough to work with.
Well, no. Think about it like here's a fun idea I came up with. Okay, think about it like this: you're flying over the forests, and then all of a sudden, a team of small, completely blood red triplanes pop out, like flying like a VTOL temporarily, defying logic, and fly forward, and you're fighting red caps that are in pilots' get-ups. They want your
Okay,
blood over the skies. Like
right,
actually,
and
actually make the Fae kind of work with the weird setting you're doing.
right. The setting stuff is very loose, loosey goosey, but it does include mosaics of airships and dragons. So
So
I can't hate it.
this is a very
100%.
simple. This is a very simple setting.
Right.
It feels like a very early map that you can improve from here. There's not a lot of
They
logical
even say
geology,
it. They even say it right away. They're like, just use whatever the fuck you want to do with it. There's no canon. Just do what you want.
which is a good idea. There's
But I
something
like
that
some of the
amuses
names
me
here.
because they're
If you
all
take a look at the names, the islands of Sopwith, the Daimler Coast, the Euler Valley, the
Fokker
Fokker
Mountains,
Mountains,
Dornier
the
Delta.
Sikorsky Peninsula.
Vossen is spelled wrong. It's they're missing one of the I's.
Yeah, still, I mean, come
Maki
on.
Peninsula.
They're being cute. Just
Vo-
the Caprini Archipelago.
so here, I do have one complaint. Where's the Curtis Sea?
They do have the Voigt Desert, or the continent of Voigt, which is another one.
They should have had. They should have had one. Oh, maybe that's where the American ones are.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here that you can roll with. Like
I'm
this is
envisioning
obviously
like
someone's.
the Asia one where it's all like the Nagasaki, Kawasaki, Mitsubishi. All of these Zaibatsus that built them.
Yep, they have a lot of like comments about everything. There's some decent world building here, not like amazing, but pretty decent.
It's clear that their efforts were on the mechanics rather than the setting, but there is enough that they have a potential ticking setting to get people interested. They also
Yeah,
show what the Great War looked like and why the flying circuses are a thing. Then they go over the different peoples.
yep,
The most common are the
including
Gothics.
yep. They have a few other kind of little bits of it where it's just like it's very simple.
Himmelvolk,
It's
Statler, the Fisher folk, which are the
Skyborn.
sharks,
Yep,
the Romani.
and then they have maybe the Jewish.
Oh, please tell me the cat girls are the Jews.
Oh, come on. Seriously?
Please tell me that they're the Jews.
I don't think so.
I don't think there is a Jewish group in this setting.
No,
The
there are. The Rishonim.
Rishonim, yeah, an ethnic and
Oh,
religious group
come
spread across the
on.
continent.
Spread across the continent, the Rishonim share a monotheistic religion which a single powerful, perhaps all-powerful deity created the world. Their foundational myth holds that they were once afforded a utopian blah 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 blah.
Been cast out into the
We're the God
unforgiving.
learners?
I guess, but the God learners are different. Never mind. We're not turning this into Glorantha again.
Oh no, but then they're like, while the Rishonim consider their deity beyond gender, the word Gotin is commonly used while speaking Gotish. As the Himmelfolk find the idea of
Also,
a goddess more comfortable.
that explains the Aleph.
Yep.
That explains.
Yeah, it's the cult of Ashara.
They're reliant on their wisdom. The powerful have been always quick to use them as scapegoats. Yeah, so they're very obviously just Jews. Like
Yeah.
100%.
Well, you can also give it away. Hold on, because I think Rishonim are an actual thing.
My only complaint
It
is
is.
I want to
Yeah,
know
hold on,
where the
wait.
cat people are.
The Rishonim were the leading rabbis during the 11th to the 15th century. See, you just named them rabbis.
Hey, there. Okay, there is in fact titties on page 282. So
That's kind of why. Why?
because it's supposed to be representation of like nose art.
I understand that, but this
But up
makes it
to
so
this
you have to
point, they
wrap it
kind of
in
avoided
tinfoil.
it. Yeah.
No, they have a couple
Like-
times, like the dude in the bed, and then there was what I thought was a new half on one of them.
Right. Then I do like they did a whole paint schemes thing though.
Here's the entire Germanoboo section, the Kaiserboo, which is really weird given the. It's really weird that this person very clearly is a Kaiserboo, at least on
Yeah.
some level. But
When is this Deutsch?
but then
Ja?
but then they kind of go really hard on trying to avoid the the nose art. We're not gonna show that part.
Right. If you skip just to page 284 though, they have various paint schemes.
I'll see if I can. I don't think I can.
Sorry, if it's a PDF copy, it'd be 286 if you just type that in.
Yeah, because I don't know why they did. I mean, I know why, but everything is political. No.
That's a different thing. That's just talking about the use of the word Volk a little bit and like why that is used. Some of it, this is just more
Yeet out
like
the
cover
window.
your ass section. Yeah.
No, this is yeet out the window. Inclusivity, yeet out the window. Yeet out the window. Yeet out the
And
window. Stop crying. Stop crying. Stop
Imperialism,
crying.
race,
Wah.
religion. Yeah, they say the faith of Rishonim is analogous to Judaism.
No shit, but you made them
no
cult of
shit.
Ashara
You don't have
worshippers.
to. You don't have to
Well,
like.
no, they're not called. I don't know what they're.
By
A notable
by
aspect though
making their
is
representation of their
Islam.
god a woman, no, that's Ashara. It's not
Ah,
it's
They
yeah.
Ashara.
don't. They just usually use that around the goyim because it makes them more comfortable.
Ah,
Well,
They
technically,
mentioned
it's
that.
because their version of their creator is non-binary.
Doesn't matter. It's too powerful. You can't determine it. He is one of those pronouns that's generally used anyway, so it's like, eh.
But yeah, the paint schemes, and then that's it. It's just the inspirations.
Oh, by the way, other media.
Are the
Night
wild loot
Witches.
the cat people? I don't fucking know. I don't
Okay,
like the
are
cat
you
people though.
ready for the inspirations? I want you to look in under their media. Jason Morningstar's Night Witches, an RPG about Soviet air women.
By the way, we only did one part of it because it was bad.
It was really bad, but I just love that their next comment was just go watch the trench run scene of Star Wars again.
Understood. I don't know why you didn't use more Star Wars references for your characters though, because that was the only one that was really good.
Yeah, that was really
The
funny.
soldier
You
and
could have
workers were fine, but then you just made
that one was
garbage
so
after
good.
garbage.
Like that one made me so like this is gonna be actually really good, and then it just fell apart.
And
I'm
then
really
it's like,
disappointed by that.
you see the deep ones are representations of gayness because
I don't
wah.
care. I do not care. I want more Star Wars references. Especially good ones like that one. That was so
Okay,
fucking
do you
good.
know what I would have done with the fish people? I would have gone full calamar Mon Calamari.
Yeah, you could have done that. Actually, another good one would have been
Have one of their moves just literally be called "It's a trap."
it's a trap. The other one to do with that would have been the Red October.
That too. Like actually, oh god, imagine like one of the sharks looking like Sean Connery.
You mix those two around, and there you go.
No.
The
You see one of them look like the unholy love child between Sean Connery and Davy Jones from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, wearing like a submarine's captain cap.
Yeah. All in all, though, I think we can kind of agree that this is definitely at least playable.
So I had an initial issue with it because I was coming from this in terms of accessibility to other players, like to people who are just getting into not necessarily RPGs, but want to try something new. Like let's
Right.
say you played D&D, you wanted to move on to something new. Like let's say you tried Star Wars Edge of Empires and you're like, I really liked the pilot section. Do we have a dogfighting game? And then you bring this out. And initially I was leery about it because of how complicated it is. But I would say that it is not that intimidating. I don't personally like the cards, but that's specifically because it allows you to customize your plane, which is one of the appeals for this sort of thing. So ultimately, it has a. I think the bar to enter is a bit high, but not in a bad way. It is also
Yeah.
easily one of the better powered by the apocalypse systems we've seen because it's not powered by the apocalypse at this point.
Right. And their game
Most of the
master
book is
section,
good.
yeah, the game master section is actually very good in terms of like what do you do, how do you handle running this? It gives you a very good idea of like don't stress like position too much. You can keep track of it in general, but like
The mechanics, what they allow you to do is they allow you to make any type of dogfighting game if you know how to homebrew.
right.
Like, let's say you
And
wanted to run a Rogue Squadron campaign going through the entire galactic civil war of Star Wars. You could do that. Do you want to be one of the poor bastards that are in the Dominion War in Star Trek? You could do that. Do you want to be, no, not necessarily a Gundam pilot. That's what Mechaton Zeta is better at. But the point is there. It is very easily customizable. There are a lot of good aspects to it. The art is more endearingly cringy in many cases.
yeah, because like there's some actually like, oh, that's kind of neat pictures of art, like the one with the like
This
the mechanical stuff, like the stuff like the mecha, the leviathans and all that. Like that's some of that is genuinely kind of neat. Like I liked the clockwork dudes, like little clockwork automatons, with like
my
their ornithopter
favorite
fighter planes and all that. Like that's cool.
my favorite of the antagonists. They're not really that strong. Uh, yeah, I wouldn't really have one. The setting's a bit weak, but not in a horrible way. The
It's a
only
it's
the only thing I hate is kind of the attempt to be diverse because they felt more cynical.
right. Like
Like
there's
the attempt to make the shark people gay people, that's about as
that kind of
enlightened.
falls apart.
That's as enlightened as make because they got their power from a dark god. That's about as enlightened as making orcs the stand-in for black people. Oh wait, they did that. It'd be like making them Mexican. Oh wait, they're doing that. Though to be fair, an Aztec-inspired orc would be pretty cool.
Hmm.
Right.
Uh,
I mean,
it's
for me,
hackneyed. That's the
yeah,
weakest part of the book, but it doesn't ruin it. It
it,
just takes it from a high good to like a low good for me.
for me, I'm very interested in the mechanics. It is the setting that I do have a problem with.
It's a
Right.
The mechanics are fine. I would say they're very high good. I can't say amazing because I think the bar is too high for a person trying to get into this sort of thing early. But it is simple once you understand the basics and keep the track. It allows you to do a lot of maneuvers. It allows you to actually do a pretty in-depth fighting dogfight simulation or bombing
Without
run
things
or
bogging down, which is the real fucking problem with that sort of shit, is usually that
this
bogs
doesn't
down
do it.
very quickly.
This doesn't do it. The GM actually intentionally makes it so you have to check gauges if it does.
Like you can literally just as a GM be like, okay, this is getting really fucking boring and no one's having
The
fun.
fighter's
Okay,
breaking off because their gas is running low. You
their
might want
gas
to
is
check
gone.
yours.
Yeah. Yeah, check yours.
They're pulling off. That means that the fight's lasted a while. Check your gauge. Oh shit, you're almost empty.
Yeah, and then it goes from that sort of struggle to okay, we need to get you guys home
Oh,
somehow.
oh
All that.
god, oh god, you're about to crash. Try to aim for the nearest that may have been a farm field, and then you go on an adventure, and you find
Yeah.
yourself outside of like a ruined farmstead where you have to avoid being killed by a harvesting robot, like a rogue harvesting clockwork robot.
Right. Again, that works really well. That stuff is the good. The good is like
The good is that. The bad is the attempt to turn ethnicities into representations or trauma I was the sole survivor of my unit and I had to survive in the city. You represent being a man
oh
trapped in a woman's body. No, I represent
no.
post-traumatic stress and battle fatigue. No, you clearly represent transsexuals.
I
I
mean,
should have I
yeah,
should have
you
died in
could
the
do
gas
that. You
attack.
could make that as an analogy, but it's not a great analogy.
It's ham-handed.
It's ham-handed, and it's like you could have easily done this more of like this is an incredibly traumatized person that's lived through the fucking worst that can possibly happen, and they are a
There's
pilot.
also the matter that like we talked about, yeah, being gay is like a common thing among pilots. Like it's always you always do a little bit of a
It's been
gayness.
a little bit gay for forever. Like,
So
did you not see Top Gun?
so
The
what
most
would have made
homosexual.
sense? What would have made sense is to just not make a big deal. Just show the pictures, mention it in the section about pilot etiquette and that sort of thing, and then just move on.
Don't ask, don't tell. Like literally, just have that be the thing. It's like you don't ask about who they're
Or
sleeping
you
with,
just
and you don't
don't
tell.
give a shit. Like that's the
Yeah,
ultimate level of tolerance. No one like if you run out
no
screaming,
one
"I'm gay,"
cares.
and no one cares. They're like, "Oh, cool."
Okay, whatever. Like like we're just like get in the robot, Shinji.
I'm just envisioning the shark people coming up from the ocean after like their time communing with their dark god. They crawl out of the ocean. People are getting scared, and then they just say, "We're gay," and then they all applaud, including the airplanes. Like the airplanes, like their wings start
Their
actually,
wings start clapping.
and that airplane,
Congratulations!
Truly brave
Congratulations!
and stunning.
and, and that airplane's name, Albert
Albert
Einstein.
Einstein.
I'm rating
Uh,
the book overall a low good. Those setting stuff is too much of a roller coaster and it drags down the mechanics. The mechanics are, I say, a high good, almost amazing. I would
like
actually
when you
no. I'm
consider what
gonna
this
say
does with
amazing for what it's trying to do. I think it succeeded.
it 100% succeeded. I don't know if I'd call it amazing though, because
Low
I
amazing.
think that there's room to improve this.
There is room to improve, but like,
It's
given how hard it is to make a dog like
a
crunch heavy,
dogfighting game that isn't shit. Yeah,
well, no,
it's
a
very hard.
dogfighting game that doesn't simplify everything to shit and back or make it overly complicated. I think it about hit the sweet
I
spot.
the only down thing that drags this down for me is that this uses Powered by the Apocalypse, but even then, this uses such a hijacked version of that. I don't even know if you can call it that anymore.
So I would say very high good for the mechanics to very low amazing, like it's on that border, just because I
Yeah,
think they succeeded in
like
what they want.
we'd have to do some actual play testing of this and see how it flows in reality. But I think it would flow pretty good once you get like
It's
a
at least good. I'm gonna say it's at
yeah,
least good. The
it's at least
lore
good.
goes between decent to deep hurting in one brief point to playable.
Right. It's hard to define this book really because it's like it skews for me from like playable to decent to good. It's somewhere in that range.
the majority of the game I think is at least a high decent to low good.
Right. I think that's where I would put it too. I'd put this at high decent. Like this is
Low
definitely
good.
something where it's like high decent, low good. It's something where I would very much say like if you're interested, give it a shot. I think that you could have a lot of fun with this, especially because they published a bunch of extra stuff with extra aircraft to like give you extra ideas and parts and things to play with. Yeah, go for it. Design up to your heart's content. Go full autism. That's what this is for, really.
Actually,
And
yeah, you know what I'm just gonna very quickly show off some of the aircraft catalog just to give you guys an idea on because there's quite a bit. Let me
yeah,
very
like they
quickly show them
have
off.
a lot, and I think that that's to its
They
benefit.
they also have a bunch of companies too, by the way, like examples of companies and what they do. Like let me just
Right.
kind of show it off. Like there's a lot of stuff you can play with, like Arntworks, Braunkitzflugi, Hugo. It's all German, but the whole setting is German, so that's fine.
Like, and that's why I say like you could easily hack this into a mecha
And
RPG if you
here's one of
really
their plane
wanted to.
examples: the Theller Cobra MD. the last of the Gotha 5s. It shows what its boost, handling, it shows everything you need for the basics, what its reliability is, all of this stuff is,
Yeah,
which is
like I
useful.
again, I think that this is just a solid book. It's by no means the worst thing we've ever reviewed. It's by no means the best, but it's one of those things where I'm like genuinely like, okay, if you're interested, it's probably worth your money. If you wanted to steal this to do Starfighter stuff, go for it.
There is enough in it. I would say this is one of the better books we've covered.
This is one of the best. I would rate this above Roma for Powered by the Apocalypse.
I probably would as
because it
well.
because I think that it just manages to just barely squeak by basically taking Powered by the Apocalypse and turning it into a functional system.
I am going to say that I think Roma is the easier game to play.
Oh, by far,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
But the reason I would probably say I think I like this one a bit more is the concept that it tries to do is something you don't see too often anymore. A lot of the simulation games like this died out in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
Mainly because FASA dropped the ball on the mechanics.
Like a lot of simulationist games are not meant for people to like that are outside of the general realm of it to be able to play. And I would argue that this is a game where, while it's very simulationist, you could easily ease a new player in.
It is
To
soft
learning all of that.
simulationist because the
That's-
hardest
yeah, that's a
part
good-
is tracking everything.
Right. It's like, okay, you just track it. And it's not requiring you to do math on the fly. It's not requiring you to do any of that. And it even has like a pre-flight checklist thing to get a new player to say, okay, I understand now.
The
Where
only
this is
reason
going.
I was a bit leery is I have had many a player. You have also had many a player
I have, yes. I have
that
had
what
players
would
like
happen
this.
is they would not do the pre-flight check, or if they do, they take an hour to do something that is very simple. Go through a fucking checklist and then stare blankly looking at fuel. What does this mean again?
What does this mean again? Yeah. And that's always going to be a problem. It doesn't matter what group you're in. If you're ignoring that sort of player, like this is fine. This is perfectly fine.
The bar of the entry is high, but there's a lot of. Remember, as we went through, it won me back. It
Right.
won me back. It tried to lose me again with some of the
I
things
bet
it did.
the thing is, I want to look at the tank one, but I cannot, for the life of me, figure out how the tank one's going to be better than this. I think the tank one's going to be worse in most regards.
It depends on if Erica is more passionate about tanks, because Erica comes off as a treadhead. It's a type of
Erica
military
comes
spur.
off of
It's a type of military
Erica
spur.
comes
If you're
off as an
wondering,
aircraft spurg, like 100%.
possibly. But it also might be a They also might be a treadhead, and it depends on how deep the passion is. What I would love to have seen, because I think it'd be an interesting attempt to do one of these. Okay, hear me out. Pre-dreadnought period naval game.
Just early Age of Steam naval game.
I'm thinking anywhere from late Age of Sail to the birth of the dreadnought. It's because what happened is a worldwide cataclysm happened right around the time that, like, say, the HMS Tiger was made.
So early dreadnought, early mid dreadnought
And
era to
experimental seaplane carriers.
Yeah, to like the pre dreadnought. I can see that,
To,
but
like,
the problem with
clippers.
that is that as much as that kind of tickles my fancy as like a setting thing, I do not think you could run a role playing game very well because ships are very, very big like that scale.
Correct.
And it'd be very hard to do it right.
You can get away with it as a tank. Actually, the tank splat, it might work if you're playing the whole crew.
Exactly, that's the problem with that one that I already see. It's like,
well, no, I'm envisioning it like that one tank movie, Fury.
Fury works because Fury hyper focuses on one crew, and it does that very well. There's people that can complain about the accuracy of the movie, but all that, but it gets the spirit of like the absolute fucking clusterfuck it is to be in like a tank in combat very well. Also, the one scene with like, "Hey, shoot that guy," is really good. It's
just
become an internet meme for a reason.
No, I'm just envisioning like all the different tank models. I'm just envisioning the one where their ability to detect anything is that bad. Because there's a
Right.
really fun example of Russian tanks ignoring the German ambush just because they don't have a radio, or just their ability to detect shit with optics is that bad. So imagine like a cheap piece of shit box that just breaks down every 100 miles because that's how bad those early World War One tanks were.
Yeah, this kind of makes me want to do at some point like a look through of the newer version of Twilight 2000 with this, because it kind of gives me those vibes somewhat. Though less of the post-apocalyptic vibes, but definitely kind of gets the spirit of it in, of like you're a ragtag group of people here that are all fucking stuck together.
Oh, apparently Erica did make a shit book as an April Fool's shit post.
As all right, like props to the author then. Like that's exactly how you should do it.
Honestly, though, doing the tank one, if I can get my hands on it, that sounds fun.
That sounds like it could be quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
If not, let me take a look at what we have. I have many a
I mean,
book.
I
in the
do think,
pipeline,
yeah, we
we
should maybe
want
do uh, another Dark Ages book
we
for Dark
should
Age.
We should.
we need to do Wraith, the Oblivion at some point, the charnel houses, because we do have Holocaust Remembrance coming up.
Yeah.
That's going to be depressing. Just like right off the
Yeah.
bat, that's going to be very depressing, guys.
Yeah.
But it is a good book and it should be
It is a
reviewed.
good book and it should be read. You should read it. It is worth reading.
I do have Wraith the Oblivion 20th.
Yeah.
Not a
Wraith
Wra-
20th is.
I'm not a Wraith fan though, so like
I don't blame you. I'm not exactly a huge Wraith fanboy myself. I just think it's a good game.
I'd
That's kind of
rather
where I'm at.
to be blunt, just look at something from Geist.
Geist, there's really not much from Geist.
I
Geist got
know.
exactly one
Oh
splat
wait,
book that was a multi.
don't we have a Dark Eras come
We
in the
do have some.
companion?
We do have some Dark Era stuff featuring Geist from Companion, but I don't think that that's kind of what we'd want to do next.
I mean, there's Lifting the Veil.
I mean, we already did that one, didn't you?
No, we
Or
did
No.
you did
not.
that one solo?
No,
No, that
none
was the
of us did
Mummy.
Lifting the Veil.
That was the Mummy one you did. That's where I got mixed up there.
Yeah, we did Fall of Assyrian.
I think we'll look through and then pick one from the
Well,
companion book.
Imsit, there's not many left. We've done Fall of Assyrian, we've done Forsaken by Rome. We haven't done Solace in the Dead, but
The Souls in the Dead is the
we've done Princes of the Conquered Land, When the Horsemen Wrote.
yeah. We've done the Master's Tools.
We've not done Forbidding Lands.
We've not done that, but honestly, that one's just so similar to the
We've done a lot from the
Hunter.
companion.
Yeah, the problem is that one's very similar to the main one from the Hunter book, where it's talking about colonial New England.
I mean, I have from Dark Eras 2.
We could start going into Dark Eras too. I think part of it's just we're kind of running dry on that one.
Yeah, we've mostly tapped out. Like, we're going to have to specifically, if we're doing anything like that, do we need a depression stream? I mean, maybe.
But if we want to do a positive one, there's the Golden Age of Science Fiction.
That one's pretty decent. I mean, the main thing with the depression stream for Wraith is we don't really want to do Charnel House as a stream. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It deserves much more than a stream. It deserves a full video, like a full edited video about it. Like it's.
The problem is, though, what type of editing would you expect me to make out of that?
I don't know. You could add in like when it gets too dark, just duck facts on the bottom, I guess. Like
So,
just cute animal facts to display on the bottom of the screen as we're talking about millions
you
of
want
people
me-
dying horribly in industrialized genocide.
do you want me to show movie posters of Pixar's Cost? Like, intermingled in between?
Just Pixar facts.
I don't know. We
I
will.
don't know. Cute animal facts, fun trivia. I don't know. As we're talking about people being burned alive,
I don't know,
an
man. I don't
industrialized genocide. Like, there's really no way to sugarcoat this book. Like, the problem with making it entertaining content is that it is, by its very nature, it is entertainment, but it's not entertainment meant to be like, oh yeah, it's a fun romp. No. This is a serious look at this shit. This is not like backing down. This isn't Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which is the worst fucking piece of Holocaust media that you will have been forced to expose to if you're around my age.
Yes.
Oh my fucking god. I fucking hate that book and that
Yeah.
movie so much.
Why don't we do that for that a parallel where we do a tier list of the shittiest Holocaust media.
Shittiest Holocaust media top 10.
The Taika Waititi one. I hate that one a lot.
Jojo Rabbit?
I hate Jojo Rabbit so fucking much.
But we'll figure out what
it's
we
the
do
type
for
of wacky fucking humor. It's the wacky humor that they try to do with it.
Just the absurdist nature of it is what you dislike?
It's the Whedonism aspect, yeah.
It's the absurd. Okay, yeah, like fair.
So the problem is, I think the animal facts. I'm looking through the book as we speak for everyone curious on stream. It's gonna be a 20-hour long video because I think every paragraph I'd have to include something. This
Just
book
have
is
it at the
depression
bottom.
incarnate.
I mean, it opens up with a ghost drowning someone. Yeah, like it's fucking. It immediately
No, you don't.
goes
You don't
dark.
understand. I don't know how to make this into a recorded video that's not depressing, other than just cleaning up our dialogue. I don't think I can. I think it just have to be done straight and fucking pitch black.
You just have to fucking like just us with the bottles of booze in front of us, like just getting through this. Like if you read some of the like Night, of course, is the classic, but there's other Holocaust survivor accounts of people that did make it through. Mouse is probably, in my opinion, the most digestible because it goes right from the start of like 1939 all the way to the end.
No,
Mouse is
like
also
you like. I'm looking at the part. Okay. The ghetto circle. The final day. Yeah, this.
Oh yeah, they go right into like the details of how this was conducted. They do not pretend that this was anything other than an industrialized genocide that has been never since repeated in scale. There's a bunch of people who love to claim like, oh, the gulags were as bad. No, the gulags, if you're being generous, killed about 3 million people.
The communists killed a lot of people, but the way it was done is different.
The way it was done is very different. Like, you can go into the Holodomor killing about 3 million through starvation, yeah. The gulags killed 3 million people roughly and probably injured another 2 or 3
And then there's
horribly.
Cannibal Island, which was horrible, but the difference is it was neglect.
The difference is it's neglect.
Other than trying to leave. That's the only time where they'd shoot you.
Right. And on top of that, it's the scale and the time. The gulags take place over a period of about 20 to 30 years in Soviet Russia.
From late Lenin's time because Lenin had a few.
To Khrushchev. And Khrushchev's the one that really starts to end the whole gulag.
It wasn't Khrushchev. It was Beria, of all people.
Fucking really?
Yeah, Beria actually managed to get control briefly with Malenkov. One of his ideas to stay into power was to empty the gulags. That's why crime waves spiked during the 50s and 60s. Because he got rid of the non-political prisoners.
But I thought that Khrushchev was the one that started shutting it down even for political prisoners. Like
he's the one that fixed it to assessing political prisoners to actually being dissidents and trying to wrangle the hardcore criminals back.
But
he closed them and just started building super prisons instead.
Regardless, Nicholas Liu does make a good idea. Wild West setting.
That
for
could
the
be a
next
good one.
video.
But to finish off my thought here, it's like, okay, the gulags take place over like 30 years, and they kill maybe 6 million. The Holocaust kills around 12 in less than half that time, in 7 years
Not
or
even,
so.
not even actually, because the direct industrialization only happened after the Wannsee Conference in '42, I believe.
Right.
Most of it,
So about
most of it occurred
most of the
after
deaths
that.
take place in 3 years. Yeah.
I think if you did the numbers out of that 12 million, I think it was like a couple million, like 1 to 3, because
Well, you
of the
you
lack of
factor in disease, starvation.
the majority of the deaths occurred in basically 2.5 years.
Right. It's
Yeah.
and you've got to remember that they had no intention of slowing that down. Anyone who likes to say like, oh, but the communists were and no, just flat out no. Like the scale of the genocide is completely incomprehensible
The
until you
numbers are
dig into
higher,
it.
but the scale.
The numbers aren't even higher because it's hard to
No, they
attribute
are.
for the no. Like when I go with that, it's like how do you
Factor Mao's.
like yeah, but how much of it's
But
China? It's
Mao,
going to be
yeah.
bigger.
But Mao wasn't going around and putting all of minority groups in camps and then murdering them all.
Yes, he did.
Right.
Xinjiang province.
Right.
Okay, then. Well,
But it's China.
Xinjiang province and the Miao peoples of southern China. He did.
Like again, as I said, it's China. The numbers by their very nature are going to be insane. It's
a complex topic. It's a very sensitive.
It's a very
topic.
thorny, but it's like
But we will take on that risk and eventually address it.
We'll figure it out. It is going to be recorded, but honestly, I don't know how I'm going to edit it. I think I'm just going to clean up our dialogue. I might just do that because anything else might be, I mean, honestly, it's probably too disrespectful.
Right. Like about the best you could do is like, this is really bad. Here's some cute animal facts for you while we're all just like trying not to grab more alcohol.
Just randomly you'll see bird up, and then it'll just be a random bird fact like, fun fact, the woodcock makes a noise that is attributed and called a peent.
They also do the weird bobbing dance. Jimmy, it's the fucking Joe Rogan thing. We just put the woodcock dancing over the discussion of like how many people they can fit in the ovens.
But yeah, I think probably next week then we should do a Wild West setting.
Yeah, that could be fun.
I got Dogs in the Vineyard.
Actually, I have not read Dogs in the Vineyard. That could be fun.
Let's do that.
We
whatever
also
that
got
is.
Furry Pirates.
No.
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
Well, you don't want to do Furry Pirates?
I think we can all agree that Furry Pirates is something we do not want to do. I don't care how good the mechanics are. It's about furry pirates.
We already just saw that in this game.
Well,
not really. They don't explain what the cat people are.
Like,
oh, I know what we can do. I'm an idiot. I have the Evangelion RPG book.
We're getting in the mech suit next week.
Or alternatively, Bubblegum Crisis is written by Mike Pondsmith.
Okay, now that one I actually want to take a look at.
Okay, next week is Bubblegum Crisis. At some point during April, I'm not going to make a joke. At some point in April, we're going to
horrible discussion of the inhumanity of man.
Yeah.
The book.
We'll leave you with that. Good night, all.
Good night.